And welcome into the Upside Sports Network. My name is Michael. Appreciate you guys joining us on trade deadline day. NBA has seen a number of great trades already, some of the most surprising in NBA history. Let's get into some of the action that's already happened this morning. And without further ado, let's get right in. Now, late last night, we saw a deal between the Los Angeles Lakers and the Charlotte Hornets. Basically, the leftovers that the Lakers had left to trade, Dalton Knecht, a first-round pick, and a swap, ultimately go to the Charlotte Hornets in exchange for Mark Williams there. Going to give him kind of their lob threat there in the center, kind of the player that Luka really needs. Now, the one thing I do want to mention about this, the most interesting thing about this acquisition, besides Williams going to the Lakers and giving them their big that they really needed, is that Luka is the one that basically requested that they add a center. Stop me if this sounds familiar. A famous player, very good player on the Los Angeles Lakers, goes to management and says, hey, get me a center. Did they listen to that player before? No, they did not. Who was that player? That was Anthony Davis. That was LeBron James. Hey, go out there and get me this player, X, Y, or Z. Luka Doncic is there for what? 2 days? 36 hours? And he immediately gets what he's looking for. He goes to management, knows that they're looking for a big, and tells him, hey, don't get one of these veteran centers like a Valanciunas. I want a lob threat, somebody I can throw up the ball to and that can throw it down, somebody who's going to be able to space the floor for me going to the rim. That's kind of what Luka really likes. We saw that with Derek Lively, how that really changed the dynamic of the Mavericks offense. And then, of course, with Daniel Gafford. Now, very curious to see that they bent to the will of Luka Doncic so quickly. Absolutely, they want this thing to get off on the right foot, understandably so. But after not capitulating to Davis and LeBron for the past 3-4 years, ever since they won the title in the bubble, a little bit surprising that they do it so quickly here with Luka. I thought they would eventually, but I thought they would take some time. Luka would take his time getting comfortable there. But apparently he basically went to the front office there and was talking basketball with them and kind of told him what he looks for on the floor, what kind of makes him excel and makes him play the best. And good on the Lakers for making this decision so quickly. The reason being is because you want your best asset to be able to succeed. Now, their best asset is no longer LeBron James. Their best asset is Luka Doncic. They have to build this team around him. Make no mistake, Luka Doncic is the 1A in this scenario. LeBron James is the 1B on this team going forward. I'm sure LeBron will still act as the leader on the floor, at least for the year, and kind of teach Luka how to lead a little bit differently. Maybe be a little less emotional with the referees, show him different conditioning habits, all the small things that had issues in Dallas, that ultimately the small things were the reason why they ultimately traded him to the Lakers. Hopefully those small issues will be taken care of. But I'm with Ant Edwards. If you guys saw the interview with Anthony Edwards anyway, basically saying if he's not in a game on that day when the Lakers go to Dallas to play the Mavericks later in February, he wants front row tickets. I'm right there with you, man. It is going to be biblical. That's how excited I am for it. Luka is, drives his energy off of interactions with the fans. Every time, a fan gets into him, tries to get under his skin, he uses that as fuel, as motivation. He's not going to need that anymore. He already is going to have plenty of that coming from Nico Harrison and the Dallas Mavericks front office. I don't think he'll have any animosity toward the players. I think they'll get along just fine. Doesn't mean he's not going to try to rub it in during the game, though. He hits a step back fadeaway over Kyrie Irving. You guarantee he's going to say something to Kyrie. He hits another one over, throws a lob up to Williams, and he dunks over the top of Gafford. You guarantee he's going to say something. See, this is what you traded me for. I'm going to give it to you all night long for 15 years. Get more, come get some. That's what you're going to see from Luka Doncic for the next several years to come, and I'm here for it. I want to see it happen. I'm a huge fan of Luka Doncic. I'm also a fan of the Dallas Mavericks, so it'll be tough to square the two when they face off, but I'm here for it. I want to see that action happen. But another trade that did happen in the morning here, we saw a first-round pick go from Philadelphia to the Washington Wizards. It's a 26th first-round pick for 4 second-round picks. Basically, Philadelphia is getting some draft assets to be able to trade them, multiple assets to make smaller deals happen. Philadelphia was able to duck underneath the tax anyway, and curious to see what their next move is. Now, sure, 25 has not gone great for Philadelphia. From the start of the season, this thing has not gone well. I'm sure they're hoping for a better year in 26, which is why they're comfortable trading the pick in 26. But if things go poorly again, do we start to wonder, hey, when is Joel Embiid going to become available? Why are you still holding on to Paul George? Those kinds of things are the things we'll start to question there. Let's go ahead and update our page here. One of the newest rumors we have is that Cleveland is looking to acquire DeAndre Hunter from the Atlanta Hawks. He's been available for this last several years, and now we have another trade. This is a little bit surprising here because I thought PJ Tucker would stay in Miami. Looks like he is being rerouted once again here to the Toronto Raptors for Davion Mitchell. You might remember him as kind of a high draft pick of the Sacramento Kings, seen as the kind of defensive stopper. Never really proved out to be that, though. Kind of seen his draft stock fall ever since. And now he's being traded for PJ Tucker, an $11 million player who probably will be waived or traded to another team in an effort to take on in an effort to get assets for a bad salary. But his second round pick in cash, I mean, what a tough couple years it's been for PJ Tucker. What a sad end to his career, really. Seen as kind of the number one shoe guy in the NBA. I know that doesn't matter to fans, but I know some of the younger fans out there might find that interesting. But for Miami to kind of wave the white flag on PJ Tucker so quickly, does PJ Tucker just not want to play basketball or something? That's what I got to be wondering at this point. I thought he'd been a great fit there. Andrew Wiggins, PJ Tucker give you some of that toughness, some of the little bit of scoring there with Wiggins, kind of give you a fill-in there for Jimmy Butler. A little bit cheaper cost there, save him some money. But ultimately, now they're trading him to the Toronto Raptors. And on the other thing, what are the Raptors getting here? Are they going to just waive him? Are they going to trade him to bring in another contract? Are they just going to see if he can roll out there with Ingram and see if they can make a run at this thing this year? I mean, I just don't see the logic too much here. I mean, what's the point of the deal, I guess, is my question. Let's see if anything else is going off. AD popping off would be wonderful for the fan base, no kidding. Let's see here. I did see a tweet earlier. Merriam-Webster's dictionary is even dunking on the Mavericks right now. Basically, the Mavericks are trading the Webster's International Dictionary unabridged for the 1992 San Bernardino Yellow Pages. Oh, man. I mean, the Mavericks are just getting thrown under the bus on every single format you can think of. Grammys, I mean, late-night talk show hosts, politicians. I think it's even been brought up on the floor of Congress at this point. News from Real GM anyway. They have the Warriors, Suns, and Heat had a framework for Durant, Butler in place. And, of course, Durant said he wants to stay with the Phoenix Suns, so that wasn't happening. That's one trade I know a lot of people are hoping for today. I just don't see that one happening. If Kevin Durant doesn't want to go, I don't think the Suns are going to push the issue here. They have a pretty good team. Do they have a great team? No. They should be they would be wise to see if they can get Beal to waive his no trade, but that doesn't look like it's happening. The other deal that they should be looking to get rid of is the Jusuf Nurkic deal, but they might have to attach an asset to it to be able to get it off that roster. So if they were to trade Nurkic, they might be able to get an asset or two that would give them a little bit of juice to go into the second half of the year with. But for right now, it looks like KD and company will be staying there in Phoenix. One other bit of interesting news, the Bulls and the Warriors are continuing to discuss Nikola Vucevic after making the deal for Jimmy Butler last night. So something we can kind of keep an eye on to see if the Warriors continue to add. As far as teams that were looking to make some trades today, one, the Warriors. Warriors are still looking to add even after Jimmy Butler. They don't have a whole lot of assets that they can still use, but they still could bring in a player like Vucevic here as far as a salary. Dallas Mavericks, they're looking for a scorer, a ball handler. We knew they were going to do something here. Rockets look like they're going to stand pat. The Knicks are looking for some upgrades as far as a shooter and a center. Maybe they do one, maybe they do both. They made an interesting deal yesterday, sending out Jericho Sims and bringing in DeLon Wright. One of the worst shooters in the league this year is DeLon Wright, but the one thing he does bring is the one asset Thibodeau absolutely loves, and that's a defensive mindset. A very good defender, kind of in that Josh Hart mindset there. I wonder if they're going to have to trade Josh Hart to be able to get the pieces that they're looking for at the deadline, if they view DeLon Wright as an insurance policy if they did that kind of a thing. Do I think they will trade Josh Hart? Probably not. But that's one team I'm kind of keeping an eye out for. The Washington Wizards are another team that I think could be a very useful team as far as some of these teams that could take on bad contracts. The Wizards don't have much of a bright future for the next, 3 years. Jordan Poole is probably their best player at this point, and that's not saying anything great. He has really kind of seen his stock trend down since leaving Golden State, but they're another team to kind of keep an eye out for today. Let's go ahead and scroll back to the top, see if anything else is happening at the moment. This is tied to the Jimmy Butler trade. That opens up Miami to being a player in the buyout market. Maybe that's what they're kind of hoping for here, is kind of dipping underneath that threshold to be able to get into that buyout market rather than having PJ Tucker. There are a few players that would be of interest to Miami if they were bought out. And there's not a whole lot of teams that are going to be buyout eligible, I'll put it that way. If you're in the tax and so forth, if you're over the aprons, you're not going to be able to get into that buyout market. That's why the Heat make the deal here, I would guess. But I still would have rather kept PJ Tucker and tried to do that a different type of way. Let's see here. Happy trade deadline. Yes, this is absolute robbery by the Miami Heat. Davion Mitchell is a great defensive guard. He is, but he doesn't offer much to the table other than the defense. That's why he's seen his stock trend down. PJ Tucker offers you some of the similar things with bigger size. Slower feet, though, a lot older, but they can kind of hope on Davion Mitchell there in Miami. And they're going to need to figure out something with Terry Rozier anyway, because that hasn't worked ever since they made that move. Maybe this could be the first domino that says, hey, maybe we can find a suitor for Terry Rozier, for somebody who needs a point guard or a ball handler. Speaking as a Mavericks fan, that kind of fits the description of what Dallas is looking for, but I'm really hoping that doesn't happen. A couple of years ago, maybe, but not this version of Terry Rozier. Nothing else at the moment. All right, let's have some fun, everybody. I know we talked a little bit yesterday anyway about some of the trades that we could be looking forward to today, as far as different moves that we could see happen. Some names to kind of keep in mind. We just mentioned one of them, Nikola Vucevic from the Chicago Bulls. I'll mention Kobe White as well, and Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter as well. Zach Collins would be another name that's on the market, but I doubt there'll be much interest. But the three names from Chicago that I'm keeping an eye on for today are all three of those. Kobe White anyway, and Trey Jones, I think would be a good guard for a lot of teams to have. You're going to have to pay a pretty penny, though, for either one of them, most specifically for White. And then as far as Vucevic goes, there's not too many teams that are in the market for his type of ability, and so maybe the cost isn't going to be too exorbitant, but his salary is what's going to be the tough part to figure out there if he does have real interest in Golden State. Some other names that I want to kind of throw out there for you guys. The Pelicans are having a truly terrible year. I mean, they are absolutely garbage this year. There's been a lot of rumblings about Zion Williamson for the better part of 2 years now. I wonder if this is the time the Pelicans try to get out of the Zion business. What do I mean by that? By trading him away, seeing what they can get for him, while he's still got at least a little bit of value. You know, say if your season's going poorly, or if you just lost your starting small forward, looking at you, the Atlanta Hawks, maybe you bring in Zion Williamson to kind of bring some juice to the end of your season and see if you can pair him with Trae Young and Jalen Johnson and see if you have something going forward. Richardson as well. But if you trade Zion Williamson right now, I'm not sure if you're going to have get the best of what's on the market for him, but I'm not sure by getting to the end of the season if his stock doesn't drop even further. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see some movement out of New Orleans, and Zion is one name to watch. Another one I would have said before the injury would have been Herb Jones. He is injured at the moment. He still may be traded because I think he will be healthy at some point later this season, or at least as we get closer to the playoffs, from what I've heard from a couple of different sources. But who knows with injuries? Could be a setback. Who knows? But that's one name I'd mention as well. And then Trey Murphy. That's my number one target if I'm a Mavericks fan. That's the one guy I would like to see them go after. Welcome in, Rafe. Appreciate you joining us. Going pretty well, my friend. Just kicking off our coverage of the NBA trade deadline. I know it's a little early for a lot of you guys out there, so I appreciate you guys joining us so early in our live. NBA trade deadline is about 3 hours and 20 minutes away. So we got a little bit of time here before we see some deals. But already we've seen, 3 trades get done so far? So something to kind of keep an eye on this morning as some of these teams try to dip underneath the tax and try to figure out just how to add another shooter, add another big, add another ball handler. Small trades are what I'm going to expect. It's the big thing that we see today. Right as we get close to that 2 o'clock hour, I'd expect a flurry of moves for a defensive wing, specialist type of players rather than an impact player. Most of those impact trades are already done. Luka Doncic being the big one, of course. Jimmy Butler going to Golden State, as well as a few other deals as well. B.I. getting traded last night to the Raptors did get across the finish line. They ended up getting a first-round pick, a second-round pick, Bruce Brown and Kelly Olynyk. I would not be surprised to see Kelly Olynyk being flipped to another destination, maybe to a team like the Lakers to kind of give them a backup five there, along with Jackson Hayes. That way he has two lob threats in Hayes and Williams, and then has Olynyk as another shot maker, kind of in that Maxi Kleber role. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw them trade like a Gabe Vincent to make that type of deal happen. Welcome in, Holly. Appreciate you joining us once again. In case you guys are unfamiliar, this is fanspo.com. If you guys want to post a trade idea while we're live, I'll go ahead and see if I can pull it up for you guys. But as you can see, it's kind of a sleepy morning for a lot of people. Let me go ahead and pull this up one more time, see if we have some new posts. And we do. There is that Miami trade sending Davion Mitchell to Miami in exchange for P.J. Tucker and a second-round pick. One thing I don't really like to see is a lot of these five-team trades. Those are very difficult deals to work, but let's see what it would look like. This one here. The one rumor that we did see this morning was the DeAndre Hunter rumors with Cleveland. So let's see here. For Cleveland, they're getting Hunter and Looney, 2 second-round picks. So what is Cleveland giving up? They're giving up Tristan Thompson, basically nothing. A first-round pick, LeVert and Niang, and Wade. That's a loss for the Cavaliers. I don't even have to look at the rest of this deal. Doesn't make sense. Let's see here. Rafe, Sixers and Washington trade was a lot of pieces moving around. Yes, it was. Morgan, welcome in. Appreciate you joining us. Any more Raptors trades yet? We've seen a couple of them. The Raptors are trying to get their toe in quite a bit of different moves right now. The Heat drop below the first apron. They do. Nothing else there. But in case you were wondering, the Raptors just made the trade to acquire P.J. Tucker as well as a second-round pick in exchange for Davion Mitchell. They acquired Brandon Ingram last night in exchange for Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk, a first and second-round pick. Rafe, Lakers feel like the Dodgers. I don't know about that. I mean, the Mavericks were the ones that approached the Lakers about the deal. That's very different from what we saw from the Dodgers this offseason. So I will say that they are trying to build some super teams out there in L.A., and with ratings being down in the NBA and whatnot, I know Dwayne Wade threw his conspiracy hat in the ring as far as why the billionaires got together and said, hey, let's send Luka Doncic to salvage the ratings, especially after we just signed this new TV deal. It's only good for business. We'll get the Mavericks good down the line, maybe move them to Las Vegas, and that'd be a hard pill to swallow, I will say that. Do you think the Grizzlies make a trade? I do think they will make at least one trade, probably two. I'd expect a small deal and a bigger one. I know they were in there for Jimmy Butler. I wonder if they're going to dip their toe into the DeAndre Hunter sweepstakes. Maybe they dip their toe into the Trey Murphy sweepstakes as well. Maybe they see if they can pry away a Kevin Durant. I doubt they'd be able to. But some type of big wing. That's kind of what I'm looking for. Kind of a 3-4 size wing, P.J. Washington type of a player. Kyle Kuzma comes to mind, who just got traded to Milwaukee. He's going to stay there, obviously, in Milwaukee, but maybe you can convince them in Washington to part with Chris Middleton, even though by all accounts it sounds like he is going to stay there. Rafe, I don't mean that in a bad way. Just a great team who gets better and looks almost unstoppable outside of injury. Yeah, I mean, I'll agree with that one. I mean, both teams do look pretty darn good on paper, especially after the trade for Williams last night. I thought that trade was exactly what Luka Doncic needs to kind of unlock him and allow him to get into his spots on the floor, allow him to utilize all the skill set that he has. Not to say that he couldn't do well even without Williams. I'm just saying having that lob threat there to kind of give him that extra foot of space between him and a defender is all he needs to get off that shot, to get that crazy pass off to the corner to a wide open Austin Reeves or to a wide open LeBron James. And that's the thing. With the addition here of Luka, I know AD was on the team already. I get it. And every now and again he would draw a double team. But it's not going to be anywhere near the level of attention that Luka Doncic is going to draw. LeBron is going to see wide open lanes to the basket. So I'm expecting kind of a rejuvenant player in LeBron James in the second half this year. And then we'll see what we get out of Williams. I want to see if the lob threat is there, if he can stay healthy, if he can space the floor a little bit as far as keeping somebody down in the paint and allowing Luka a little bit more room to work, and see how he works as far as a pick and roll guy. Can he do that and still do the things that he needs to, that Luka needs from him as far as the floor spacing? Let's see here. Let me see if anything else is happening. Just saw another. Let's see. New faces, new places. Jared Dudley. AD. Jared Dudley now Mavericks coach. AD on the bench. There you go. I like that one. Nothing there. Let's see if we can kind of go through another one of these trades and see if any of these make sense. All right. Let's update the page. I'm sure there's probably a new trade by now, especially on deadline day. Here's an idea from a Warriors fan to get Vucevic. You're getting Gary Payton, Kevon Looney, a young player in Santos, and 2 second-round picks. Honestly, I don't mind it. Warriors add just a little bit more payroll. Bulls get off just a little bit. Bulls essentially get 2 expiring deals, a young player, and a couple of second-round picks, and they get off of Vucevic next year. This isn't a bad trade. Honestly, I'd probably do this one if I was the Warriors. I'd probably hold out for just a hair more if I'm Chicago, but not a bad deal overall. I kind of like this one. Man, AD probably won't play tonight. I wouldn't expect it to at this point. I think we would have already heard by now if he was going to play. But I think they're going to hold it for his debut to be in Dallas on Saturday. I just hope that the fan base recognizes that it wasn't the team that made the decision as far as the players on the floor, or even Jason Kidd. It was Nico Harrison. It was that front office. So while you might boo the decision before the game, once the game starts, once the first ball goes through the basket, once AD scores his first bucket, let's celebrate the guy, man. I mean, he deserves it. You're getting another top 10, top 20 player in the game who's been relatively healthy this year, aside from the last, 6 or 8 games. He's been more healthy than Luka this year, that's for sure. And just appreciate the new talent that you have. Appreciate Max Christie. Understandably, we're all upset that Luka's gone. But it's not Anthony Davis's fault. It's not the team's fault. It's not Jason Kidd's fault. It's solely the front office, Nico Harrison, and ownership. It's going to be a rough experience, I'd imagine, outside the arena. I'm sure there will be protests outside the arena. But as far as in the arena, I just hope that the fan base realizes that once that game gets going, that we need to appreciate AD and celebrate those guys, because just as easily as this thing went south so quickly for Dallas, they trade away Luka. It could get far worse if things go downhill rapidly here. Kyrie could leave in free agency, and then you're left with nothing. Talk about a time to move a team. That would be probably the best time at that point to start the discussions about, hey, what would it look like to have this franchise in Vegas? And then at that point, I mean, as far as Dirk Nowitzki, the bottom of his statue reads, "Loyalty never fades away." That's a sentiment that can no longer be said in Dallas outside of Dirk Nowitzki. We were hoping that could be for Luka. Have his statue on one side, Luka's statue on the other. Dirk and Luka, 40 years of great NBA basketball out of those two guys, and it doesn't look like that's going to happen. Now, maybe he opts out of his deal, re-signs in Dallas in a couple of years. I doubt that ever happens, but it's just a tough time to be a Mavericks fan, tough time to be a Dallas sports fan in general, outside of the Texas Rangers or Dallas Stars. But the Cowboys certainly have frustrated their fan base with the moves they've made with Dak Prescott, with their coaching decisions. Now the most popular athlete in Dallas sports, Luka Doncic, is traded away for what feels like a bag of potato chips to the fans. And understandably that Luka was a lot more valuable of a player. But look at what the trade that just got you... who was the trade that they just did for? Was it Anthony Davis that they did the calculus on that one for, where he got traded for 3 picks and Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, and Josh Hart in that deal, and then essentially add another first-round pick to it, so essentially get to about 6 first-rounders by that calculus. And then if you look at the trade of what Luka could have brought you, say it would have been 7 first-round picks. If you still think AD is worth 3 of them, you're getting another first-round pick here in the first-rounder in 29, and then you got Max Christie, who's a fringe first-rounder guy. I'd say you're probably getting back, at best, 6 first-round pick value with AD. So while it's still a miss as far as the trade value there, I think the fan base is more upset about the loyalty factor, about the fact that he was ours kind of a thing, and that's kind of where the issues stem from there in Dallas. Atmosphere in Dallas is going to be rough, yes. Luka already looks happy in LA, so doubt he comes back, but one could only hope. Luka's generally a happy guy. He's just kind of a happy-go-lucky kind of a guy off the court. When he's on the court in the game, he's one of the most competitive players, most in-your-face kind of a players that we still have in the NBA. He'll rub it into the fan base. He'll take it to the team as well. So Very rarely do we see that in the NBA anymore. Now Luka off the when he's not playing in the game, he's very jovial. He'll shoot half court shots over his back. Do the dude perfect stuff. Do all the crazy trick shots. Have some fun. That kind of a thing. Kind of the way Steph Curry was in his younger days. But I'm not surprised to see him already trying to fit in with his teammates and having some fun out there in LA. I mean, it's LA. I mean, they have the ocean. Everything seems to be perfect every day out there. At least that's the way a lot of people try to spin it. I know people have a lot of difficult situations out there with the wildfires and all that kind of a thing. But LA in general is still a pretty great place to live, even considering the issues that they do have. All right, let's head back over to X and see if anything else is happening. On trade deadline day, we're going to have to keep updating this thing quite a bit. What's this conspiracy you believe about the Luka Doncic trade? Good point there. There's a lot of different ones out there. Okay, my brother, but this is actually Cody. But newest Maverick, Caleb Martin and P.J. Washington played together for 2 seasons in Charlotte. I mean, why post the picture? It's his brother, not Pete. Anyway. Whatever. All right, so let's do another trade and see if somebody else has a good idea here. Update the page. All right, so here's a trade that sends Nurkic out the door. So how do they do it? They trade Nurkic and a second-round pick. That ain't enough. And they're getting back Dennis Schroeder. Not happening. You're going to have to include more than just a second-round pick to offload that Nurkic salary. And you're giving up Walker Kessler in the deal. Tell me you're not a Suns fan here. Tell me you're not a Warriors fan here. Now, the Warriors' end of this trade isn't too bad. Giving up a first-rounder, 2 second-round picks, and Moody. That part of the deal makes some sense. But I think this deal could still be a little bit better here. As far as the Suns portion of this, they ain't giving up enough to be able to offload that deal in Nurkic. John, are you happy with Ingram with the Raptors? I am. I thought he would go to a team like Atlanta. I thought that was kind of the team that everybody was expecting there. But the Raptors getting their small forward of their future, I think they're going to try to extend him to a deal at some point here. I'd expect that deal to get done. And then they're going to roll out a team with Quigley at the 1, Barrett at the 2, Ingram at the 3. You're going to have probably Boucher at the 4, and Barnes anyway when he's healthy. And then, of course, you have Podol at the 5. That's a decent team. Is it a great team? No. But is it a team that you can at least hope makes the play-in at least? I would say so. Could they make it even this year? Maybe. I mean, the East is not a great spot this year either. But as far as this trade here on the screen, I don't think this would happen. Not enough giving up or to be able to get that Nurkic deal done. Why aren't you scrolling here? Okay, there we go. I hate trades with 5 teams. How many times do I have to say it? Ugh. Yuck. This ain't happening. Milwaukee even trading Giannis. You're not getting all of these pieces back. It's not happening. The Pistons, you're not getting a first rounder and Giannis and Drew Holiday. That ain't happening. Yikes. Some of these trade ideas some of these people post are just crazy. 5-team trade again. I ain't even going to click on it this time. Let's do another one here. Let's try, I think we already did this one here, the DeAndre Hunter one. Let's do this Cam Johnson one. I think this one would actually be interesting here. Cam Johnson, you get Harrison Barnes, Malachi Branham, Champagne, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, a first-round pick as far as swap rights. You don't even get an outright pick. And you get 2 second-rounders for Cam Johnson. Nowhere near the value. So this is definitely from a Spurs fan, I would say. Heavily tilted towards the Spurs. Cam Johnson was probably worth 2 first-round picks when they had him on the market. They've since slowly pulled him back a little bit. It's unlikely that he would be traded at this point. And you're saying that he's not even worth what he was when he was originally put on the market a couple of months ago? That doesn't make sense to me. So this would not happen. Now, as far as a trade here, I like the idea of Cam Johnson going to the Spurs. I think that would give him a great player at the 3 or 4, wherever they would decide to deploy him. But Harrison Barnes, I think, has played pretty well this year. I think a lot of people would be surprised by some of his shooting numbers. Is he a difference-making player for a team anymore? No. He's just a solid player who knows his role on a team at this point in his career. You can hope a little bit on Branham, but not a whole lot. And then as far as the 2 second-round picks, that ain't nearly enough. Now, say this offer was amended to include, say, 2 first-round picks in this deal. Harrison Barnes is the salary ballast, and that would be it. Just straight 2 picks and Barnes, I would consider it. Maybe you have to put 2 first and a second and Barnes to be able to get this one across the finish line to take on the deal of Barnes. But not a bad player idea going to the Spurs. Rafe, are the Mavs going to add more defense before the deadline? I surely hope not. They need offense to me. They need a ball handler, somebody who's an athletic wing, kind of like in that P.J. Washington vein with a little bit more of an offensive tilt without sacrificing the defense. That player for me is Trey Murphy. Another player is Herb Jones, but he's not quite the offensive piece that Trey Murphy has become. I would love to see him in a Maverick uniform. Morgan, is it true that P.J. Tucker is going back to the Raptors? He is, along with a second-round pick for Davion Mitchell. Let's head back over to X and just update and see if anything is happening at the moment. AD is questionable tonight in his shoot-around, but he's been doing shoot-around for Dallas since he's gotten there about a couple of days ago. Good to see him. And one thing I did notice about AD is that his shooting numbers look down from 3 this year. I think he's at, 26, 27% from 3. So while I think he's still a great option offensively, and his numbers still look good from 2 and a good rebounder, good deterrent defensively, he brings all that to the table. One thing that's kind of diminished over the last couple of years with AD is that three-point shot. With Luka, I would assume his three-point shooting would go up, more open looks, that kind of a thing. However, with Luka not being there, I wonder if those shots are going to be still just as difficult as they were for him out there in LA. So I'm wondering if they bring in a ball handler just to free up a little bit more shots for their 2 big stars that they have, Kyrie Irving and for Anthony Davis. The one player that they do have that they could move is Klay Thompson. I think his role on this team is non-existent right now. I think they'd be better off using his salary to bring in another player, a guy like Trey Murphy. I think it'd be a great fit. Offensive scorer and knows how to play a little bit of point. Has done kind of a point forward role for the Pelicans to the point where they're even listing him as a guard now. He's 6'8". Pretty good defender as well. He was seen as the better player between him and Herb Jones a couple of years ago. Had the injury. Then Herb Jones had this great period of success, and then everybody thought Herb Jones was the best piece. Herb Jones is now out. Now everybody's back to thinking it's Trey Murphy. Either one of those 2 players I would love to have from New Orleans. And Klay Thompson, I would love to see go out the door to make that thing happen as far as salary. Now, would the Pelicans be interested in Klay Thompson? No. You'd have to reroute him to another team. Say Nurkic is they're trying to get off of Nurkic's deal there in Phoenix. Maybe you'd give up a couple of second-round picks and Nurkic. Nurkic goes to New Orleans. They're looking for a center there anyway. You'd probably have to include another asset there as well. But the Mavericks would be the team giving up the assets as far as a couple of first-round picks along with Klay Thompson to get that deal done. Welcome in, Chester. Appreciate you joining us. One of those comments just disappeared anyway as I was about to read it. So hopefully it'll pop back up here in just a second. Let's update our page here. Looks like the Jaden Springer trade is about to go through, or at least they did. That trade finally went through the process anyway this morning. Rockets are getting Springer along with a second-round pick, another second-round pick, and they're only giving up a protected second-round pick. So basically you're just taking on the salary of Springer in this deal and picking up some trade ammunition from the Celtics to be able to do so. Rafe, considering the Mavs' recent moves, which of Lively or Gafford is less likely to be traded in the next couple of years? You would think not Lively because his youth, but they've been trading all the youth. He had to edit to make some sense. Okay, I got you. You're good. As far as who's less likely to be traded, honestly, I think it's a toss-up between the 2 of them. If I had to pick one, I'd say Lively, just because he has more value. But at the same time, I think the Mavericks are looking to do big things. When you're looking to do big things, you tend to have to give up the more valuable piece, which would be Derek Lively. Lower cost salary, higher future, all those kinds of things. So kind of keep that in mind when you're looking at some of the trade talks that are going to be thrown out today, surely around the Dallas Mavericks. I'm sure we'll see some more crazy headlines about the Mavericks are still trying for KD, or the Mavericks are trying for some other play, like going after LeBron or whatever the case may be. I don't think either one of those will happen, but I'm just saying today is the day where you'll hear a couple more crazy ideas as we get closer to the deadline. We are officially 3 hours until the deadline. Right now it is 11 o'clock, 3 hours away until the deadline. Chester, you think the Warriors are getting Nikola from the Vucevic from the Bulls? I do think that's the most likely fit at this point. I think the Bulls would love to get off the deal and kind of reset their salary talks. One other thing is that the Bulls have a couple of other deals that they could trade. Let me go ahead and pull that up for you since I kind of brought that up. Let me head over to Trade Machine, and I want to pull up the Chicago Bulls. They're kind of an action team for me to watch today. So, a couple of deals that they could do. One, Lonzo Ball is off the table. They just signed him to an extension. Vucevic is signed to a 2-year deal here. I would expect him to have some interest around the league. Patrick Williams, he ain't going anywhere. Herder, Collins, Kobe White, and Trey Jones. All of those guys I've heard on the trade block today. Kobe White would be the most valuable of those pieces, but Herder's shooting ability, I think you'd have some value from a couple of different teams. $16 million is a lot, though, as far as a salary. Trey Jones is a 1-year deal. I know there are some Mavericks faithful that are out there hoping that they bring him in. I wouldn't be surprised if they looked at it, but Kobe White is certainly the gem that the Bulls have to offer. Vucevic, if they can get a few second-round picks for him, I think that might be the best option there, but a 20-point, 10-rebound game guy, maybe you get a late or a heavily protected first-round pick in return for him. But Vucevic still has some value, and I think he'd be a good get for the Warriors here at the deadline. As far as other teams that could use him, maybe you could look at the Phoenix Suns trying to offload Nurkic there. I mean, Nurkic, pretty much trading him anywhere else would be an improvement off of that roster, and replacing him in there with Vooch, I think would be a good deal. But you're not going to be able to do it for just adding up salaries there. So just to kind of show you what the deal would look like, I'm not sure. Let me see here. Let's trade Vooch here to the Suns in exchange for Nurk. Just saying that this would be a decent type of a deal I would do. Let's see if it's even possible, though. And no, because of the Suns, they can't take over that 18.1 salary because they're over the second apron. So they would have to go even a bigger salary than that, which you're not going to trade Booker. It doesn't sound like Beal's willing to move. The only way you get him if you're the Suns is if you trade Durant. So that's not going to happen. Let's go ahead and take out the Suns and add the Warriors in this deal. Warriors are at the first apron. Let's see here. So you're not going to trade Draymond. You're not trading Jimmy. You're not trading Curry. So the only way you can get there if you're hoping to hold on to Hield, you have to include Peyton. You're going to have to include Looney. Moody probably would be the most likely. I doubt you'd trade Kuminga in this deal. Moody would have to be the one, and then the couple of second-round picks like we saw in the trade earlier. Alberto, welcome in. Appreciate you joining us. Dallas are trying to do big things by taking the team to Las Vegas. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm wondering. Adelson, I thought that the Mavericks were going to try to build their own gaming and casino thing in Texas and try to get it legalized in Texas. Remember, Mark Cuban had bought that city about 40 minutes south of Dallas and was going to redevelop it. And that was the thought process there, is that would be the Vegas for Texas, is that's where it would be built. And the reason why he was selling the team was to get the funding to be able to do whatever he wanted to do something like that. Well, the Adelsons are one of the richest families in the United States, and their money comes from gaming and the casino companies out there. Maybe they just want to get this Mavericks team out there to Vegas, and good on them if they're able to do it. They accomplished their goal. And one of the easiest ways to do it is to alienate the fan base there in Dallas, make it harder for there to be public sentiment to keep the Mavs there. I'm sure the Mavs faithful, there's going to be a certain contingent that wants the team to be gone after trading away the franchise icon. But I still remember the days of Dirk Nowitzki. I still remember the days of Luka Doncic just a couple of days ago. This is still a good franchise. They're still a good team. They're still going to be a very competitive team. I would still expect them to be in competition for the NBA Finals this year and for the next couple. They still have a really solid roster. But it could change in a heartbeat. You never know with injuries. And once you have older players on your roster, you never know how long those guys are going to stick around. So those are my worries there with the risk that the Mavericks decided to take. Rafe, I'll never forgive Cuban for selling the team. He didn't make the decision to trade Luka. I will say that. He made the decision to trade or to sell the rights of the team. We all thought it was to possibly move some gaming and try to build up some business there in Dallas and build up that entire enterprise. That hasn't happened, and doesn't look like it will happen at this point. I'm sure Texas eventually will get some gaming, but as of now, it looks very bleak. And as far as trading Luka Doncic, that's already done. Cat's out of the bag. You ain't going back. All right, let's see if anything else is happening at the moment. It took half a decade, but the Warriors finally admitted the truth by giving up a first and most of their future cap flexibility in Jimmy Butler. Wow. That's an interesting headline because this kind of applies to Klay Thompson for me. You're willing to give Klay Thompson, say a smaller deal. They weren't really looking to bring him back at a big number, but Jimmy Butler, they're willing to give 4 times the average annual value of a Klay Thompson. Understandably, Klay's on the backside of his career. He's a declining asset. Jimmy Butler, while he still has good true shooting numbers, looks like a declining player to me. But 2 years, $121 million was a lot of money to spend. And if you're not going to get another star, I guess they had to do it. But at a certain point, you got to wonder, would we have been better off keeping Klay and trying to spend the money in other ways? Or would we have been better off doing the route that we chose, bringing in Jimmy Butler, trading the assets that we did, and still having to give him that type of contract? So just interesting how the things worked out there in Golden State. Miami has their own tale of missed opportunity here, but the other team the caliber of Golden State, or another team with a player of Curry's caliber, Golden State has sat out too many hands. They have kind of sat on their hands as far as making trades, I will say that. They have a full buyout market preview shortly after the deadline passes. Cool, we'll check that one out. See if anything else is going. Doesn't look like it. All right, let's have some fun. Let's do some trades, shall we? It is trade deadline day. It is my show. Let's have some fun. We'll start with my favorite team just because that's where I want to start, and that's going to be the Dallas Mavericks. They make the trade of Luka Doncic. What exactly do they have up their sleeve? What are they going to try to do? They're 26 and 25. They're in that glut of teams in that 8 to 11 range. They could, with a good win streak, could be up in that 5th, 6th spot. With a bad losing streak, they could be out of the playoffs. So with that being said, if you're looking to improve this roster, I already did a Trey Murphy one. Let's do a little bit more fun. Rafe, I want to see a huge blockbuster deal that keeps the headlines off a Luka deal. Okay, let's do that. What would be a headline-making deal, a star-making deal? Hey, we lost Luka, but we got AD and Kevin Durant. I don't like that deal just because I think it guts the roster too much. What else could we do? Let's kind of go through this team by team. Who's a star that the Mavs could do to replace or at least take some of the sting out of losing Luka? With the Cavs, maybe you go after Donovan Mitchell. Oh, wait, you don't have a piece that could have done that. You traded that piece in Luka Doncic to the Lakers. All right, we'll try to steer away from some of the Luka digs on these. But as far as the Boston Celtics, the one piece that I've heard that might be available is Drew Holiday. While that would be a good get, he's 34 years old and is starting to show some decline. I'm not sure he's got 4 good years left, and he's going to be paid really, really well for all of those years. I would steer clear as well, and I don't think Boston shakes up their roster. The Knicks, maybe you could get an OG Anunoby. That would be a possibility if you trade Gafford and Klay Thompson there. Maybe you can pry him away. The Pacers, you're looking maybe Miles Turner, maybe you're looking Mathurin. I don't think that gets it done. Giannis for the Bucks obviously ain't going anywhere. Kuz is there, but you ain't getting him. Same thing with Lillard. The Heat, they still have Tyler Hero and Rozier. I'm sure they could get Rozier, but I don't want any part of him. Pistons, maybe they revisit the Tim Hardaway Jr. trade. Go back there. I would say no. Magic, Jonathan Isaac, anybody? No thanks. Hawks, you could go for DeAndre Hunter. I would prefer not. Clint Capella, no thank you. Bulls, you got Vucevic there. Kobe White would be the first name that comes to mind for me. Trey Jones, so that's kind of the first fit as far as a player. Kobe White, Trey Jones. As far as the 76ers, Paul George, we did kind of the trade mechanisms yesterday for that one. Doesn't make a lot of sense for the Mavericks to do that one. Cam Johnson with the Nets. Now, I know he's not a household star yet, but he is a star in the making. So what would it take for Dallas to get Cam Johnson? Now, he's got 3 years left, so good control, 28 years old. True shooting numbers look really good. Don't pay attention too much to this LeBron number. The PER is what I like here, the 18.4. He's got some good rebounding. Well, I say good. For a power forward, that's a little low. But the assist numbers are decent for a power forward. So let's include him in the deal to the Mavericks. Now, you're going to have to give to get. So the give is obviously going to start with Klay Thompson for me as far as a matching salary. The Nets are not going to want him. So My favorite pick for this trade to happen would be the Orlando Magic to add to this deal. We send Clay there to the Magic. Let's see here. Who could the Magic send the other way? Looking for an expiring contract. Or maybe just a deal they would like to get out of. Maybe you send a Jet Howard and a Cole Anthony to free up some space. Or better yet, to kind of make things work positionally, you send out Gary Harris to the Nets and Jet Howard to give them a piece and a second-round pick. Not a very valuable one either. There's the Magic into the deal. They get Klay Thompson in exchange for a second-round pick, Gary Harris, and Jet Howard. Not a bad trade for the Magic. Now, for the Nets, this still isn't enough. All you're getting so far is Jet Howard and Gary Harris and a second-round pick for Cam Johnson. That's not going to get it done. So Dallas is going to have to give up some picks here. That 25 pick is pretty valuable. You trade that one. Now, it's still not going to get it done to me. I think you'd have to include another pick. So do you trade the 31 pick or do you trade the 29? I would trade the 29. So 2 firsts for Cam Johnson. Klay Thompson also goes out the door. Would you do that trade? Let's try it and see if it works. How close are we? Mavericks need to cut a little bit more salary. Okay. So who else could you throw in this deal? And a Dwight Powell maybe? Offload his contract. Trade him to the Nets, I suppose. A low-cost contract. They can waive whoever they want to waive after. Let's try this. Still beneath. How much more do we need to go? 2.6. So maybe you trade Omax to finish this off. To the Nets as well. Give them a young piece. At that point, I'm not sure you'd give up 2 firsts if you're giving up Omax as well. So say you keep the 29 pick and you throw in the second round pick to the Nets. And you throw in maybe a Jaden Hardy instead. And keep the second rounder. Try that one. They still need to trade another $2 million. I don't want to give up Exum and Hardy. So maybe you'd have to give up a bigger piece like Najee Marshall. Let's take out Omax. Take out Powell. Would you include Najee in this deal? At that point, I think it takes some of the effectiveness of this trade for Cam Johnson away. Doesn't make a lot of sense for me to do that trade if I have to do that. But I'm sure they could find a way to around Klay Thompson's deal to get a deal done here for Cam Johnson. Maybe they'd have to go, instead of picks, give up a piece like Daniel Gafford to another team and get Cam Johnson that way, get the other team that's acquiring those players to give up the picks that they would need. Let's head back over to X and see if anything else is happening. Trent, breaking news per Sham. Suns trade Grayson Allen, Yusuf Nurkic, and Damian Lee and 3 first-round picks for Cam Thomas, Cameron Johnson, and Bojan Bogdanovic. Really? I don't see it yet. Maybe mine is just lagging there, Trent. I don't see it. I'm looking. Is that the notification? Nope, that's Shefty. Beyond the Great Kershaw, more baseball news there. I don't see it. You're saying it's coming though, Trent? 3 first rounders for Cam Thomas, Cameron Johnson, and Bojan Bogdanovic. That'd be a heck of a trade, though, for the Suns. Still waiting to see it. That would qualify to me as a blockbuster of the day. Getting 3 firsts from the Suns. Do they even have that to trade after the Durant deal, etc.? Let me clear these out. Shams didn't tweet about it yet, so it didn't happen yet. I mean, I want to look at the picks. Do they even have 3 that they... Oh, yeah, they did trade that 1 first in the future to get 3 tradable firsts. So they got the 1 pick there in 25. They got another couple right swaps. So they do have some picks that they could trade here. Bunch of swap rights in there, of course. So maybe, just maybe, the weaker value first round picks that they acquired with that trade of their future first. I think it was 2031. They traded that first for 3 different firsts that are lower value. Suns discussed KD for Jimmy Butler, apparently. They did. That was what we discussed in our live yesterday. I still do not see the trade there, my friend. I'm not calling you out on it. I'm just wondering where the information's at, because I don't see it. Nothing from Shams in the last 46 minutes. Maybe it's in his replies? No? Nothing there. I don't see it, Trent. We'll keep our eye out for it, but I don't see it yet. All right, you guys give me a team. What team would you guys like us to do a trade with next? No, we've got some Mavs fans in here. We just did a Mavericks one. Let's see if we can do another one. You guys tell me which team you guys want me to do a trade for. It's on TV right now? Okay. Interesting, interesting. Usually what they do when they post those trades is they like to post them to Twitter first, that they can say they were first. ESPN usually will send out a little blurb about it too nowadays, now that they got their accounts tied to their alert system. Just seeing if there's any other notifications at the moment. Pels are very happy about Zion's ability to play. Interesting. So maybe Zion does not get moved. I know Twitter was having issues this morning, at least updating and posting information. Maybe that's part of the issue. Let's see here. Shams didn't tweet about it yet, so it didn't happen yet. Suns discussing. Okay. Shams is on ESPN talking about the Kings trade. Try something about the Nuggets. We can do a Nuggets trade. We're going to see if we can break down this deal here in just a second, though. If we get the trade notification on Twitter, that way we can show the details of it to everybody. I'll go ahead and get it ready while we wait for that to pop through. So you say the Nuggets. Well, the Nuggets are kind of strapped as far as assets and as far as contracts that are tradable for them. Picks, they've got, 4 picks total? So that means they have 1 tradable pick. Trade exceptions, they got the Reggie Jackson piece that they can do. As far as actual roster pieces that they can trade, they're not going to trade Jokic, at least we think, because we don't really know anymore after Luka got traded. But as far as Aaron Gordon, he just signed that extension. He's not going anywhere. Porter, I'm sure they would love to get off of his contract. Jamal Murray is signed for the long term as well. So their most tradable assets are Zeke Naji and Dario Saric. They've been trying to drum up interest in those two players for the better part of the last 2 months. So we'll see if they find a taker. Naji signed the long term. He's not really doing much though, so he doesn't really have much value to me. Saric, of course, not doing a whole lot either. And both those guys are signed to longer term deals. Rafe, I knew it would be a challenge. That's why I wanted to see you try to make a deal out of it. Well, let's see if we can do one. Zeke Naji and Dario Saric, they have Braun. That'd be one of their more pieces, or one of the more valuable pieces, but I don't think they would trade him. Julian Strother, I think, has some good value, but I don't think they'd be willing to trade him unless it was for the right deal. Peyton Watson, same thing. I mean, they have DeAndre Jordan and whatnot, but nah. Morgan, is SGA on the trade block? No, he is not. I know the world kind of shifted when Luka Doncic got traded, but there is still rational thought being had among NBA teams. The Mavericks just lost their mind for a period of about 3 weeks, according to what Nico Harrison described as a ongoing process for about 3 weeks to come to the decision to agree to trade Luka Doncic to the Los Angeles Lakers. But I think the world has correctly established that what they got back was not nearly enough, and why do you trade him in the first place, even with the issues that he has? So, kind of keep that in mind when you look at these other superstars. You're going to still see some good, good managers there not trading their best asset like an SGA, especially when they're the number one team in the NBA right now. All right, so what could we do with the Nuggets? I don't know. What's the best thing that they could do? Probably add depth, center, wing, point, any one of those spots really. So they could go pretty much a number of different directions. So think of low-cost contracts, maybe bad contracts that are still small enough that they could acquire. That would be a difference maker for them. A difference maker being somebody who's more productive than the pieces you're trading. Anthony, with Oklahoma City having depth at point guard and Nikola Topic not getting enough playing time with Oklahoma City, how much can Miami trade for him? We can do that one next year, Mr. Anthony. Let me just check in on X and see if anything else is happening at the moment. Kind of a follow-up trade. Milwaukee is trading Patrick Baldwin to San Antonio. Shams just tweeted that one out. Still waiting for the information on the Suns trade that you mentioned there, Trent. Appreciate you joining us, Denali. But back to the conversation we were just having. Well, something just popped up. Same deal we just talked about. All right. Let's see here. As far as the Nuggets, think of a small cost piece that you could acquire. Let's go to a team like the Hornets that's looking to build for the future. Maybe you could get a piece like a Cody Martin. I think that would be a decent piece for you coming back. Josh Okogie just signed. You're not going to get him. Trey Mann's injured. You're not going to get him. Connect just traded. You're not getting him. Reddish just traded. You're not getting him unless you just acquire him for a straight-up trade one-on-one. So maybe you do like a Peyton Watson for a Cam Reddish. I wouldn't do that. Taj Gibson to give you some front court depth. Maybe Steph Curry, who's got 2 years at $2 million per. I think that would be a decent one. Do a trade with Denver where Miami's where they send Haywood Highsmith to Denver. That could be a possibility. He's only making $5 million. But let's go ahead and do a small trade here with the Hornets. Let's say we send Seth Curry to give some more shooting, Cody Martin to give more wing help. I don't know if you can do a big trade here. Maybe a Grant Williams to get off of his deal if you're the Hornets. You send Zeke Naji, give him some playing time there. You take back Dario Saric. Nothing really there to build on, though. You have about $4 million going out. Now you're over a second apron team. You couldn't get Grant Williams. Take him out of the trade. So you're going to have to Zeke Naji to get Cody Martin. Dario Saric to get Seth Curry. You could get another $2 million player, I suppose, out of this. But again, you can't aggregate. So I guess it would be a Taj Gibson. Maybe a Nico Smith, or a Nick Smith anyway. Maybe you take out Saric, remove him. What's another $2 million player they could send that would have interest? Say you send Strother to the Hornets, give him at least a piece to go for the future in exchange for Curry and Martin. That's a doable trade to me. There you go. So basically they save a little bit of money, the Nuggets do, and they get a couple of pieces that they could put into their rotation. Martin, I think, would be a good wing, kind of back up Aaron Gordon in there for them. Maybe Michael Porter in there. Seth Curry gives them a better shot maker, a veteran shot maker. Strother, I think, is seen as that kind of a player, but Strother, I think, has a much brighter future. But they're trying to win right now, so they go after the veteran there. Not a bad deal. Would I do it if I'm the Hornets? If I'm getting Strother, I'd probably do it. If I'm not getting Strother, I say no and I hang up. All right. Let's go ahead and close this one and take out the Hornets, put in the Heat. Now, you mentioned Hightower, or excuse me, Haywood Highsmith there. You can't put Saric in this deal because, again, 5.2 versus 5.1. You'd have to do Zeke Naji going back the other way, who's a low-cost contract on this club. And Alec Burks makes some sense. Maybe you convince him to part with Kevin Love. I doubt it, but maybe. You send Strother the other way to make this trade a little bit better financially as well. Let me try this trade and see how close we are. Cut 5.4 from the Heat. Close. Take out Love. Take out Strother. Take out Saric. Try this trade. There you go. So just a straight trade of Zeke Naji for Highsmith and Burks would work. Would I do this one if I'm Miami? Absolutely not. See here, Trevin, welcome in. Appreciate you joining us. Sean, welcome in as well. Suns just got 2 first-rounders for a bum. The Suns made a trade? Let's see. We've been waiting on that Nurkic deal. Mark Stein, the Cavs and Hawks remain engaged on talks with DeAndre Hunter to Cleveland deal, with teams attempting to build out this trade construction in which both stay under the luxury tax. So sounds like there might be a couple other teams having to get involved in that deal there. Wow. A lot of salary shifting around that Patrick Baldwin deal. Let's head over to NBA or Hoops Rumors anyway, see if there's anything happening there. Green stated has no concerns playing alongside Butler despite their sharp personalities. Kevon Looney points out that Green has coexisted with other strong-willed players in the past, DeMarcus Cousins, Chris Paul, David West, Andre Iguodala, and more. Guys like that who are dogs, alpha males, they respect other people like that, Kevon Looney said. They kind of stay out of each other's way. Draymond is a great connector, a great leader. He makes things happen on the floor and off the court. An ESPN panel looks at how the trade would affect both the Heat and Warriors, believing that Golden State might not be Butler's last NBA stop. Okay. Still waiting for some bigger news to come down the pike here. Can you do Haywood Highsmith to Oklahoma City? I can do that one here. Give me 2 young players that are not getting playing time in Denver. You're not going to get that because remember, Denver can't aggregate salaries, which means if you want one of those small contracts, they can only acquire a small contract back. Keep an eye on the Pistons here. Detroit has not completed their agreed-to moves yet because they're preserving cap space until they don't need it anymore. Makes sense? Okay, so you asked to do Oklahoma City and Haywood Highsmith. Nope, close that off. Reset everything. Let's do clear them out, put in Miami, and you say OKC. For Haywood Highsmith, I don't really think they need to make this type of move, but it does give them a little bit more size. $5.2 million. Maybe they could offload a Kenrick Williams in this deal. Kind of comparable player for comparable player. They save a little bit of money on the deal. Try the trade. Boom, there you go. If you want a young player back instead, say you take out Williams, you go for Nikola Topic. That would be your ask anyway for Haywood Highsmith. I think you'd have to give up a pick to be able to make that happen at that point. Just a throwaway second rounder. There you go. So there's your trade. Highsmith, second rounder for Topic. Small deal. We'll see a bunch of those type of trades today. Anthony Davis, abdominal muscle strain, is going through workout in today's shoot around. He could make his debut tonight against Boston. Spencer Dinwiddie on the field of the Mavs after the AD Luka trade. Crazy part of this, I think we've dealt with so much uncertainty this season from injuries that we've had this next man up mentality, and I think that's kind of almost how we feel with this trade. Okay. I don't know if we even have time to be pissed off or excited or none of that. I think it's just next man up and try to do the best we can for Dallas fans. Interesting. I like the way he phrased that there. Do the best for Dallas fans. That's a guy who gets it. A guy who's not tone deaf to how the fan base is feeling. Whereas Nico Harrison, cutting jokes about not even being with the team in 3-4 years. I mean, there's two different types of GMs in Dallas. There's the type of GM that's trying to win now and do it for himself primarily. That's Nico Harrison. Then you have another GM in Jim Neal who's trying to do the best, be the best steward of the franchise, not just for this year or for next year, but he's also thinking about the long-term future of the Dallas Stars, even when he might not be there. Kind of two different ways of viewing this deal, or viewing the Luka Doncic situation anyway. Sean, will Reggie Jackson stay with the Wiz or will he be traded again? I'd imagine he gets bought out by the Wizards. I don't think he gets traded again, no. I don't think he has value on the market, and so I think he gets bought out. I think he'll go to a team like the Miami Heat that needs some point guard help, that could use an upgrade over the position they're in with Terry Rozier. Something to kind of keep an eye on there. Let's update our page again, see if anything else is going before we do another trade. This is Ron's question. Do you think the ownership since Mark Cuban sold, the team doesn't seem to care about the product on the court anymore, about kidding to certain fans? As far as the ownership group in Dallas goes, I would say that there's less emotional attachment to the team, to the history of the team. I'm sure when they first bought it, they said they were going to be great stewards of the organization going forward, respectful of the past, and honor the team and make it the best it possibly can in the future, and continue to do so. But one of the rights you do get as new owner of the team is you get to decide what's best for the team going forward. If you think the best decision for your team going forward is to be in a different market, then so be it. You own the team. It's your right to do so. Now, are you going to upset some fans along the way? Absolutely. To make it easier to make it for you to go to another market, do you alienate the fan base that you're with? That would be one way to do it. And by trading Luka Doncic, they certainly did that from an ownership front office perspective. There's been a couple of theories out there that say Nico Harrison is strictly a meat shield for this one, that he's going to take all the shrapnel of the ownership group because they want to move the team to Vegas. Now, to some degree, I think Nico still got the best trade of what he wanted. Even if this was the case, I think he wanted AD. I think he wanted his guys. I think he still wanted a chance to win. But I think if there was a conspiracy theory of sorts, if you wanted to alienate a fan base, I can't think of a better way to do it than trading your star player. Let's update our page. Maybe we've got a new one here. Nope, just more details on the Tommy Pham deal with the Pirates. We'll get into that one in our Baseball Live this evening. Rafe, can you do a Rockets trade? Last hooray for their championship run. Or for their playoff run. Last hurrah, I think is what you're trying to say. For their playoff run. I think they'll still try to hold this team together. I don't think they'll try to do something big. I think that something big is going to come in the offseason. Anthony, that seems like that's bad for business, that you're basically alienating fans, that they have been with the organization when the team is horrible. Now you're just ignoring them for corporate fans. I mean, it's just business, man. Um, Fans don't make dollars. Dollars make dollars. And so, having, Luka Doncic go from being one of the, sixth highest in jersey sales on a team that's in the middle of the country, not on a coast, that doesn't get on national TV nearly as much as the Lakers, goes to a brand like the Lakers, guarantee you, just like Dwayne Wade, his jersey sales go to number one pretty much instantly. LeBron James is going to be there to mentor him as far as how to be the face of the league. You're going to have him show him how to kind of carry himself as far as position on the court. I'm sure when Luka loses it with the referees, LeBron's going to have something to say about it, and I think he's going to listen to LeBron. And not that other teams, not that the Mavericks haven't tried to do that before, not that he hasn't listened to them before, but having this message come from LeBron might have a different impact on Luka. His conditioning habits will be improved. But let me be clear, all of these issues around Luka are very small potatoes. Why? Because even with those issues, you still look at worst, the top 3 player in the NBA in Luka Doncic, even with the defensive limitations, conditioning, etc. He's still a top 3 player in the NBA, and that's why I wouldn't have done the trade. Those guys are so hard to get. You're going to see him torch the Mavericks for the next 10 years minimum, and he has every right to be a little hacked off about it. So, but let's go ahead and do that Rockets trade you mentioned there, Rafe. Let's see what we can come up with. Let me clear out this one. The Rockets, if they're going to do a trade this offseason, I think it's going to be for a big one. Let's do one for at the trade deadline, though. Milwaukee is trading Patrick Jr. to the cast of San Antonio. Yes, they are. But what could the Rockets do? Now, the one thing I've seen fans kind of tweet out there is that they would like to see Fred VanVleet gone. There's only one way I see this trade happening, and that's going to be with the Miami Heat. Now, Miami was looking to bring in some point guard help this offseason. Fred VanVleet has not been great since he's been signed by the Raptors, or since he's been signed by the Rockets. So let's say trade him to the Heat. Now, they want to stay underneath the tax, so kind of keep that in mind as well. Terry Rozier would be the piece that goes out. That piece has not worked out well at all. Now, Houston, you're giving up VanVleet, you're getting Terry Rozier. Where's the positive for you? Negative asset for negative asset. But you have $42 million that you're getting rid of and bringing in Terry Rozier. I think VanVleet is a little bit better player still, so you could add another player. So you add Highsmith to this deal as well. That gets you to about $30 million. I think you need another $5-ish million contract. Maybe bring in a veteran in this deal like a Kevin Love. I think they could go for another shooting guard, though. Maybe a Kyle Anderson, but I thought he was part of the other trade. I'm going to go ahead and do Burks just to complete this one out and see how close we are. This trade fails because $10 million from the Heat. They need to trade a bunch more salary here. Have they updated the payroll structures here? Okay. So maybe you send Ware in this deal. Let's try that. 6.4 more. Maybe you'd have to include Duncan Robinson. So let's remove these guys. Duncan Robinson and Terry Rozier to the Rockets in exchange for Fred VanVleet. Not a bad trade if I'm Miami. I'm sure there'd have to be some picks involved going either way. If I'm Houston, does this trade make me better? I don't think so. I probably wouldn't do that one. Let's go ahead and clear it out and do a different one here. Head over to X and just see if anything else is happening at the moment. Nothing there. Hoops rumors, nothing there. Alright, let's do another trade here. Reset the trade. Get rid of Miami. Who else could they go after? Say they want to trade Van Vliet and try to bring in a different point guard. Say they wanted an upgrade at point guard. Who would be better than Van Vliet, who hasn't been great, but who's a point guard that's available? I would say Luka, but obviously he's off the board. Brogdon's available from Washington. I don't think that's an upgrade though. Contract-wise, it might be an upgrade, but as far as on the court, I don't think that is. Point guards who might be available. Knicks don't have anybody. Cavs don't have anybody. Celtics, they have Drew Holiday, but they ain't going to trade him. There's a couple of point guards in Orlando that you could get, but not an upgrade. Cam Thomas comes to mind. LaMelo comes to mind. I mean, if Charlotte really wants to go through this here, they just signed him to an extension. We just saw Luka go. What if we saw LaMelo go? That would be interesting. Let's try this trade just to see what it would do. You trade LaMelo to the Rockets. You trade Van Vliet to the Hornets. You make the Rockets take your worst contract, Grant Williams. All right, so then you go over to the Rocket side of things. What would make the Hornets say yes to this? Obviously, you have to include picks, but they're going to want a good young player back as well. So Reed Shepherd comes to mind, but they just got Dalton Connect. I don't think they need to go after him. Thompson, I don't think they're going to trade. Now, Jabari Smith, that could be the piece that goes out. There's been some rumors about Stephen Jones being available because of his contract, kind of for salary matching purposes. But I'm not trading Amen Thompson. Şengün is a possibility here. I don't think they're trying to be great, though. I think they're trying to get young, and I mean very young, and getting picks more than anything else. So let's say they do. Şengün sign long term, though. I'm just going to try it and just see what it does from a salary perspective first to put Şengün in this deal. 48 and their incoming 74. That ain't going to work. Trade Şengün back over here. So let's go with a young piece would be. None of those really work out for me. Let's say Tari Eason. Probably the most available of the young assets that they have. That's a trade that could work, and then you put in some picks. You throw in the first rounder from Phoenix. That's going to be a valuable pick there. You throw in the first rounder from the swap rights anyway for Dallas. So at least you get the swap rights there. You trade the 31 pick as well. So as far as outright picks, you're getting one. Swap rights. 29 is gone. You can't trade 30. Boston's picks are too onerous as well. Say you get the swap rights to this one as well. Okay. So basically you're getting a couple of swaps, a couple of outright firsts in exchange for LaMelo and Tari Eason. Try the trade. Fail. Consecutive years. Okay, we know that one of them is a swap right, not an actual pick. So there we go. That trade would work. LaMelo would kind of be the craziest get they could get to upgrade over Fred VanVleet. Would I do it if I were the Hornets? Probably not. But after the trade of Williams, who knows what's going on there with the Charlotte Hornets. Let's see here. Let's go back over to X before we go through some of these chats. Got a notification. Maybe we're getting some news. No, just the starting five. Luka, LeBron, Williams, Finney-Smith, and Reeves. 3 new starters for the Lakers. Nothing else happening there. All right, let's catch up on a few of these comments here. That seems like bad for business. Yes, Cash. Hey, could you do a Colby White to Orlando? We could do that one. I think the Magic need shooting more than anything else. So let's go ahead and clear this out. I'm going to go ahead and refresh my entire page, actually. Let's see here. So you're saying Orlando and the Bulls right next to each other in the standings. You're saying you want to trade Kobe White here? Well, the most logical fit would be Cole Anthony going back the other way and then getting a pick out of Orlando for the trouble. Let's say you get Denver's top pick. That's a late first rounder. And a couple of decently valued second round picks as well. So I don't think you get 2 firsts for Kobe White, but you get a first, a point guard that immediately fills the spot of Kobe White, and a couple of highly valued second round picks. Try the trade. Not too bad. Kind of like this deal overall. Now, as far as the 3-point shooting, it does nothing to address that, but I don't mind this trade. Let's see here. I feel like every team has a former player who didn't, a former Mavs player who didn't perform with them, but now is a solid player, and it's sad to see. I would agree. There's a lot of those around the league, but that could be said for a lot of different teams as well. I mean, Derrick Jones Jr. was not just a former Maverick who found success at the Mavs and is playing well for the Clippers, but he was also a former Bull, a former Trailblazer. He's had a few different stops. There's a lot of players that kind of fit that description as well. Let's see here. Let's go ahead and do another trade. Something we haven't done yet. Let's do a Knicks trade. I know there's a lot of Knicks fans out there. A couple of them are in our chat. Let's go ahead and get them a center. Now, the best one I can think of that they could go for is a Daniel Gafford. I know I see a lot of fans tweeting all the time about their trade of what they would do to get Daniel Gafford. But I'm not sure there's a natural fit there. I'm not sure Dallas would be able to get what they want out of the Knicks. But they've been trading partners before, so let's go ahead and do it for now. Let's just see, we trade Gafford to the Knicks. What would be the piece that you'd be able to get back? You're looking in the neighborhood of a Mitchell Robinson. That does nothing for the Mavericks. Achua, McBride, Kolek, Payne, DeLon Wright. None of these pieces really move the needle for the Mavericks. So you're going to have to include a third team. So who would take Mitchell Robinson as the main piece of a trade? I would say a team like the Lakers come to mind a little bit here. Nuggets to a certain extent. Rockets a little bit. Thunder could use a little bit more size. That'd be a weird trade, though. It's kind of a big brother, little brother situation. You send Gafford there. You send Bridges, or excuse me, you send Robinson to the Thunder. You get the center combination from the Knicks last year of Robinson and Hartenstein there. What could the Dallas Mavericks use off of this roster? I think Cason Wallace would be a great get, but I think they would prefer to get their pick back more than anything else. But I'm not sure this does a lot for them. They want pieces that help them win right now. Let's go ahead and clear that one out. Let me add a different team. Another team that makes sense for a Mitchell Robinson. Let's do... The Kings just got Vucevic, or not Vucevic. They just got Valanciunas. Let's say the Warriors miss on Vucevic and they go after Robinson instead. What could be the pieces that go back to Dallas to make that happen? Hield would be an interesting fit. Payton would be an interesting fit. Looney would help them as far as a center to replace him. So you put Looney as the centerpiece, or at least as far as the backup center there. You lose a little bit of athleticism. You bring in, I don't know, Kuminga would be too high of a price, I would say. Moses Moody. I don't think this trade really works either. Let's go ahead and scratch the Warriors. So who could be the third team that could be interested in Mitchell Robinson? The Bulls, if they traded Vooch, would be an interesting fit. So you trade Robinson there. The Mavericks then have interest in these guards. Say you bring in Trey Jones. You can't aggregate, though. So you'd probably go after Kobe White first. And then a lower cost piece. Horton Tucker comes to mind. Maybe bring in Jalen Smith as the backup big. And then you send out Dwight Powell as well. And then add some picks to it. Let's see what the trade looks like. Fails. The reason being, I'm guessing the Mavericks are a little over. $4 million over. So you add Omax, you add Hardy, you throw in some picks, and there you go. Cubby, Vooch just got traded to the Rockets. Let's go ahead and pull it up here. That'd be one of the first bigger trades of the day we've seen. Nothing there per Shams yet. Nothing there. Am I just not seeing it? I don't see notifications from Shams on my phone. I don't see it. None of the other reporters are posting it either. We'll have to see. It's the second trade for Bulls player that people have said has come down the pike and hasn't come through yet. So let's keep an eye out and see if anything else happens here. Go over to our notifications just to clear that one off. Nothing there. All right. Who thinks that SGA will get traded to the Raptors? Nobody. I think SGA is going to stay in Oklahoma City for a very long time. I think they're just trolling you. I think so too. There's a few every now and again in our lives that will do something like that. So there's nothing there. All right. Let me close this out. Let's go over to some of the posts and see what people are posting as far as trade ideas, though. Small deal there. Now this one's interesting. KCP goes back to the Lakers. Hachimura to the Magic. And Kobe White. You're giving up a first-round pick and Anthony Black to the Bulls. Not bad structure so far, but the Lakers are getting off of 2 bad contracts and only giving up a swap right. They're only getting a good future piece in Tristan da Silva and a bad contract in KCP. Magic are definitely overpaying here. I think you take out da Silva from this deal. I think you take out Vincent from this deal and add a lower cost contract on their books, and then you got a deal. Otherwise, I don't think this trade happens. All right, let's go back and see if we can go another one. Owners did approve John Seidler to be the Padres person in charge. Yes, they did. All right, here's another 3-teamer. DeAndre Hunter to the Bucks, giving up Connaughton and Bobby Portis. I don't know about that one. I think that would hurt a little too much as far as their versatility. Johnson to the Thunder. That would be the kind of the linchpin trade for me of the offseason, or of the trade deadline. The Thunder are a really good team. They need more size. So Cameron Johnson goes in there, and they can play him at the small ball 4 or at the 3 if they have Hartenstein and Holmgren out there, along with Jay Will or however they want to do it. But this would be a great move for them. They get a lot bigger here with this type of a move, but not enough assets going to the Nets for this one. I mean, come on, guys. If we're going to be making offers for Cameron Johnson, it's going to at least be 2 first-rounders. But, you know, aside from that, say you throw in a couple and you're giving up a Denver first-round pick, that value ain't there. Same thing for Milwaukee's second. Come on, man. But as far as the idea, I like the idea of Cam Johnson to the Thunder. I think he'd be a great fit for them. Let's go through some of these other ones here. Trey Lyles for Chris Murphy. Get the the Murray brothers together, and Scoot Henderson. That ain't happening. Come on, man. Really wish people would post realistic deals. All right, here's another Lakers one. Lakers get Cody Martin. They offload Gabe Vincent. I would love this deal if I was the Lakers. You get another wing type player. They need more wings. To me, they need more wings with size. Cody Martin's a little smaller. I would like to see them get like a 6'8", 6'9" wing to help them out. I like the idea, though, the sentiment there. Tom, the Cavs desperately need to get Hunter. It was obvious after the last Cavs-Celtics game. Kind of my thoughts as well. They need more wing help. They're very good as far as guards. They have plenty of bigs, but they need those wings, and right now they need more athleticism in that wing group. And Hunter, while he's not exactly cream of the crop defensively, doesn't exactly bring the most to the table offensively, would be stable enough that your centers, your best asset, Allen and Evan Mobley, could really dominate down there and be able to do what they do best. Now, bringing in a wing, we'll see if they get that one done. But for me, the Cavs, that's their biggest need here once again at the deadline. If you guys post a trade, send it to us. We'll go ahead and see if we can go through it, see if it makes sense or not. Let's see here. Cam Johnson to the Magic in exchange for Jonathan Isaac and a couple of picks. Yikes. Zion to Detroit. That would be interesting. You're giving up Tobias. You're giving up Thompson and picks. I mean, they say they're happy with him. All you're giving up is second rounders. Get out of here. Let's see here. Kleba, no, that ain't happening. Let's see here. Vooch, Kobe White makes sense. Okay. Here is Andrew Wiggins for Cam Johnson and a couple picks going the other way. I don't know. That's not a bad offer, though. I ain't looking at 5-teamers. KD ain't going to Charlotte. Kleba goes to Orlando. I don't think that makes sense for them either. Trade him to a team that doesn't need him this year and might be able to trade him as an expiring deal next year. Nuggets get a bench asset. How is this trade accepted, though? Did they waive a player? I gotta be missing something. Because the Nuggets are a hard cap team. Anyway, let's go back over to X and see if anything is going at the moment. Alrighty, sources tell the Steinline that the full trade construction finalized today will send Caleb Martin and a 2030 second rounder to Dallas in exchange for Quentin Grimes and a 2025 second rounder back to Philadelphia that the Sixers previously owned and had traded multiple times. So Dallas actually gets a second rounder out of it just further in the future. That actually is better for Dallas. I'll take that one. Caleb Martin has been sidelined with a recent hip injury, is said to be nearing return for the Sixers, but after consultation between both teams and the league office, Philadelphia has agreed to send an additional second rounder. So I'm guessing the medical issues for Caleb Martin are why they're getting another second rounder in this deal. So maybe they were unhappy with the medicals they got on Caleb Martin. Interesting. Now that's a trade that actually got amended. Very, very interesting. They thought he was nearing a return, so. Huh. Very interesting. Does that mean he's not coming close or getting close to coming back or what? I don't think the Mavs would make the move if they didn't think he was at least going to be coming back sometime soon. Quentin Grimes is more of a help them now player, but with only a year left, I mean, you're not really worried about the contract, but at the same time, he's going to be an RFA. You can sign him to a deal after the season. They tried getting to a number, what it sounds like, around Caleb Martin, but he said no. He wanted to bet on himself, and he's played well this year. I think he'll play well in Philadelphia, but kind of curious to see this deal, how it's ultimately gone down. Let's see if they have an update on his actual condition. Nothing there yet, but one trade has been amended, everybody. Very interesting. That's what I heard as well, Rafe, that Martin is coming back Saturday. But I wonder if this news does change things. If there was some type of a setback, that they did some medical issues, did the physical, and they found an issue that wasn't quite resolved, and so it's going to take more time to heal, or whatever the case may be. Did you see the Warriors, Hawks, Bulls trade idea? I did. Let's see here. PJ Washington going back to the rafters. Yes, he is. Very, very interesting. I'm surprised I don't have my alerts on for him. There. Mark Stein's usually very good with his information. Let's see. Bobby. Shams. I know I've got my stuff turned on for Shams. Some people have been trolling me this morning, so let's just head over to his page just to make sure nothing else is going. It's been about 40 minutes since he tweeted out some information. Maybe he will post as well on the Mavs second rounder situation. Been a quiet the last hour of the deadline. We are less than 2 hours till the deadline. It is now just after noon Central Time. So we got 1 hour and 58 minutes till the deadline. Remember, we'll be live through the deadline. And once the deadline happens, we'll have about 30 minutes where deals will still come trickling in. All right, if we get more information anyway, we will pass it along. Let's go ahead and go through some more of these ideas that people are posting here just to kind of have some fun while we wait for some actual news. All right, Terry Rozier for Marcus Smart. I get why the Miami Heat would do it. I don't see why Memphis would do that at all. Colin Sexton to Miami in exchange for Terry Rozier and a first-round pick from Golden State that they just acquired for Jimmy Butler. That's interesting. They save more money as well, so they really dip down. They would dip down so far underneath the tax, they could really add a couple of pieces. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Heard Martin comes back Saturday. Robert, Lakers looking for another small move apparently. Not surprised with as many roster changes as they've had. I'm sure they're still looking to kind of tinker with this roster a little bit after Connect goes out the door last night. We saw them kind of trade the other young piece that they had in Max Christie. I'm sure they'd like to add another wing to that group to give some relief to Hachimura and James there. But I'd expect the move to go for a wing. I'm interested in this trade here. What do you guys think? If I'm the Jazz, I'd probably say yes because I'm getting a first rounder out of the deal, and maybe I can resurrect Terry Rozier and get another pick for him when I trade him next year. But Colin Sexton, 2 years left, pretty good player. Is he worth the first rounder that you just got from Jimmy Butler? Or, as a fan base, would you rather have the pick so you can have somebody to hope on for the future because of Jimmy Butler? Or would you rather have a productive player who could help you in the playoffs this season? Heat culture is all about winning. Not so much about building for the future. They're not team powder or anything like that where they keep their assets dry. So in that sense, I kind of like this move. It saves them some money so they can get on the buyout market as well. But is it worth a first round pick? That's the part I'm kind of grappling with. Now, if you were to say you add 3 second-round picks instead of the first, I'd probably do it for sure if I'm Miami. I'm not sure if I'd be so sure if I was the Jazz if I'd do it if I didn't get that number 1 pick, especially in a loaded 25 draft. Rafe, would the Cavs look at any moves considering they look like a best team right now, but most good teams have gotten significantly better the last few days? They are actually looking to get better. They've been connected to a couple of different players, most notably DeAndre Hunter. That's the player I'm keeping an eye on. Remember, they were looking for some small forward help last year and the year before that. It's been an ongoing issue there. With them being the number 1 seed in the East, I think they're going to take things a little bit more seriously right now and add that wing player that they need. Let's go ahead and do a Cavs Hawks trade here just to kind of see what the trade would have to look like. And then we'll get back to some trade posts. Check in on the market and see if anything is actually happening. But the Hawks and the Cavs. Now the piece that would go out is DeAndre Hunter, 21 mil. Now you're already over the tax, your second apron team, so you're going to have to trade a salary bigger than 21. And it doesn't really fit. Very interesting. Wait. Let me take out DeAndre Hunter. So they're not a second apron team. Okay, I didn't think they were. It was just after I added DeAndre Hunter, they were a second apron team. Okay, so we add Hunter. We add LeVert. Even though I think he's pretty valuable for that club and takes a piece away from what you already need. But it's an expiring deal. Isaac Okoro makes some sense here. Couple of decent wing players going back to the Hawks in this deal. Let's see, could they add one more piece to help them out? Kobe Buffkin, maybe. Cody Zeller. Zeller, possibly. David Roddy. Say you trade David Roddy to them. Let's try this. So, DeAndre Hunter, David Roddy for Caris LeVert, Isaac Okoro, and probably a pick or 2 going back the other way as well. That would be what it would take to get you a wing there. Now, are you a better team? I'd say you could hold up better to Tatum and Brown, but would I say you're a better team? Probably not. I'd say you're about still the same team. But I think defensively, Hunter has the size that neither Okoro or LeVert have that could at least challenge Tatum and Brown in a playoff series. And that's kind of what it's about, this type of a move here, is they don't really have a defender for those guys on the Boston Celtics. They just kind of run amok when they play them. So I kind of like this move for them. I'd like to see them add another, wing type player, a lower cost wing than a DeAndre Hunter. But if that's the piece they've identified as the one they want, so be it. Let's head back over to X and see if anything is going at the moment. A specific timetable for Caleb Martin's Mavericks debut has not been established. League sources say Dallas does not have long-term concern about the hip strain that has sidelined Martin, but a modification to the original trade was sought after the ex-Sixers physical. Interesting. So Dallas basically was able to get a second rounder because of the issues on the physical there. So they get a future trade asset, though. Kind of like that one. Yeah, they do. They're pretty bad as far as the NFL side. They haven't really done much on that one. Let's pull up our notifications just to kind of clear the number there. Go back over to our lists. Basketball. All right. Let's clear this out real quick. Reset everything. Clear out the Cavs. I want to go back over to the Mavs just to kind of show their draft assets that they now have to trade. They do have Caleb Martin on here. Do they have the picks updated? They do not have the pick in there yet, so it will be shortly. So you're going to have roughly 9 picks with which to have on your at your disposal. Now, 3 of them you're not going to be able to trade. The 26th pick, They're going to hold on to that one. The 28 pick, they already gave up the swap rights for. And the 30 pick, they already gave up the swap rights for. The ones that they could trade would have been that 29 pick, but they have some swap rights issues already associated with it. The LA pick that they can trade, the 31 pick they can trade, and this year's pick they can trade as well. So it's 3 firsts if they want to do something big. If they want to go small, they now have two second rounders with which to work. That's not a lot of draft ammunition to make these trades happen. So Mavericks, if they're going to do something, are probably going to have to do it on the bigger side. Still the same headlines there. All right, let's do another trade, shall we? Let's clear out the Mavs. Let's do another team that I think is still looking to upgrade their roster here. Let's do the Minnesota Timberwolves. We haven't discussed them very much at all. They're a second apron team. I'm sure they'd love to save a little bit of money here. So kind of keep that in mind with these deals. And they also have Naz Reid coming up in free agency. Now, Julius Randle hasn't really worked since he's been acquired. So that's the one name I'm looking at right now. Sure, he's averaging 18.9, but the fit on the roster doesn't exactly work as well as I think they had hoped. Jaden Daniels hasn't lived up to the $23 million. Maybe he'd be the piece going out. DiVincenzo is a piece that had some interest around the league earlier. Naz Reid, I'm sure, would be a great asset for somebody to try to acquire. And they're not going to trade Gobert or Edwards. So, let's go to some of these smaller clubs. Let's start with the Wizards. Middleton was just traded. So, say you just want to do a 1-for-1 trade, Randle for Middleton. You could do that. Maybe you get a little better production out of him. Maybe you put a pick in this deal if you're the Timberwolves to get this trade across the finish line. I wouldn't do it. But that'd be something they could do. They've been looking for some point guard help for a while now. Say they decide to go the Malcolm Brogdon route and bring him in. Now remember, as a second apron team, you have to trade a piece that's more valuable. So say let's do Randle to the Wizards. And instead you get Brogdon back, an expiring deal that really takes you out of some financial issues that you were going to have. You have Marvin Bagley, who could be another piece that you'd have. But you'd have to include another $11-ish million piece. Because remember, you can't aggregate salary, so you couldn't do Bagley. Bay makes some sense. Maybe you go after Reggie Jackson in the buyout market. That would be a possibility there. Skip. Let's go to the Hornets, since they've been kind of an active team today. You trade Randle to the Hornets, give them a power forward. The Hornets are said to be looking to do all kinds of different things right now. So, say you go after Bridges, give you some scoring, all that kind of thing. You'd probably have to include a pick here. Pretty much all their picks are pretty much owned one way or another. Golden State already owns the swap rights there. You're probably going to have to do multiple second-round picks or give up another piece of value here. So you might have to give up, like, Dillingham in this deal. Terrence Shannon maybe, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker. DiVincenzo, that way they could flip him to another team. Randle for Bridges, though, is pretty close value straight up. But if you take on the bad contract of a Grant Williams as well, 13 mil. It's a lot of money, though. Let me put him back because I don't think they could do quite that one. What about a Cody Martin? That's what, 8 mil? How close do we get with that one? I don't think this trade will work, but let's see. Yeah, we're a little too high. Take out Martin. Take out Shannon. Maybe a Seth Curry as a shooter. That would work. Try that. There you go. That'd be one way to lower your payroll just a little bit for the Timberwolves. Welcome in, Paranormal. Appreciate you joining us. Good to see you. Do you think the Lakers are done for trades? Not used to seeing you doing NBA. Always MLB. Good to see you, anyways. Yes. I do a little bit of NBA. That's kind of how my channel started, was NBA and NFL. I found kind of an audience there with the MLB and kind of stuck with that and found a lot of success with it. So that's usually what drives this. Rafe, how do swap rights picks work when multiple teams have rights? So basically, say you have your first round pick and you're interested in trading the rights to it because you don't have another first round pick to trade. So you say, hey, Philadelphia, I'll give you a first round pick, or I'll give you the swap rights to this pick. Say your pick is better than my pick is better than yours. As long as it falls outside of the top 10, I will give you the swap rights. So say the pick falls at pick number 12 and the other team has the pick at number 30, then you could do a swap. Now, the team that just got the swap rights could then say, hey, I have the swap rights to this pick from number 12 to number 30. Hey, team X, Y, and Z, would you be interested in acquiring the swap rights to this pick? So say, yeah, we'll take the pick. So they say, hey, we'll take it if it's pick 12 through 18. You get the pick if it's 19 through 30, or at least the rights to swap at that point. That's how kind of the swap rights work, and you just continue to build and build and build and build from there. Now, an unprotected swap is one of the rarer things you see, but that's what we saw kind of with the Brooklyn Nets when they acquired all those different assets. KG, Paul Pierce and company, was that they did unprotected swaps as well. That's why they were able to get Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and build out that team the way they did, was on the backs of that trade there with the Brooklyn Nets. But those are kind of the rare deals that you see nowadays because they saw the consequences of those types of trades. Now, very rarely do you see an unprotected swap. So say your pick is the number 1 pick in the draft, it could still be swapped for the last pick in the first round. So say, the Mavericks decided to trade the swap rights to the 25 pick this year. If their pick fell anywhere between 1 to 30, if the other team wanted to swap positions, they would have the right to do so. Now, say they traded that swap right to Washington. Washington said, hey, I have the swap rights with the Dallas Mavericks. I would like to acquire, this young player from another team instead. Say they wanted to go after Dalton Connect, for some reason from the Hornets. They could go to the Hornets and say, hey, we have the rights to or swap rights to the pick from Dallas in 25. Would you give us Dalton Connect for him? We'll get the swap rights if it's, say, 18 to 30. We'll give you the pick if it's 1 through 18. Something like that is generally how they work. Rafe, why in the world does Seth Curry have a no-trade clause? It's an implied no-trade clause. There's only 2 no-trade clauses in the league. I don't really understand why Fanspo does this, but as far as an implied trade clause, all I can really get from it is that it's a veteran that has some sway with respectability. I don't think it actually is a contract thing. Let me see if we can pull it up here, though. Let me see what they say the contract has. They don't say what implied no trade clause is, but there's only 2 actual no trades in the league. All right, let's go back over to X and see if anything's happened in the last 10 minutes or so. We are about an hour, 40 minutes away. I'm convinced Shams and ESPN are just keeping this Kevin Durant trade talk alive, keep people from turning off the trade show. I do not think he's getting traded. Well, they are talking about it from what I've heard, but I don't think so. 74% say no. Not a very active deadline day, I will say that. A lot of small trades this morning. I'd expect some of the trades to percolate here in the next hour. Very small trades, specialist type of trades to happen right before the deadline as well. Appreciate you guys joining us. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. We'll have our MLB Daily, our MLB Hot Stove Daily show this evening. Update you guys on Alex Bregman. Sounds like his deal might be coming to a head here very shortly. Got a couple of different headlines today that lead me to believe that we're getting some momentum on Alex Bregman. Pete Alonso did agree to a deal last night with the New York Mets, 2-year deal, $54 million, $30 million in the first year with an opt-out after that first year. So good on him. But as far as the NBA, most of the big trades look like they've already happened. Jimmy Butler goes to Golden State. We get Brandon Ingram late last night. Luka Doncic goes to the Lakers. Most of the big deals look like they're done. I'm still surprised we haven't heard a peep out of Dallas. But here's the thing with Dallas. It sounds like they were dealing with this Caleb Martin thing. That's 1. 2, what did we hear about Luka Doncic before he actually was traded? Nothing. We didn't hear one peep, not one rumor. So that does give me hope that there may be something going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. But how often do we see trades executed at that level that are kept quiet. Very, very rarely. I doubt Dallas does another one exactly the same way, based off of how things went this first time, but we'll see. Any chance that at NFL Live sometime this offseason, we will do one. I will do for sure a couple as we get closer to the free agency, and then once free agency does open, we'll do a live that day as well. Usually that week is pretty active for signing, so we might take off that week if I can. But like I said, going through some career changes, we'll have to see what the future holds. This is the last vacation I'm going to be able to take for about a month, so during the week, it's very rare that I get to do lives during the day. So during when deadlines happen, I like to be live for those. Rafe, I want to see the Mavs fleece a trade today, like the Lakers did to us. Okay, let's see if we can come up with one. Now the Pelicans are the team that I keep going back to as far as a trade. That'd be the most impactful trade I think they could make. So let's do a trade here with Dallas. I don't know why it didn't reset. Let me refresh my page here. There we go. If you want a fleecing of a trade, what's the lowest trade that the Pelicans would be able to accept in order to offload Herb Jones and Trey Murphy? Let's throw the Magic in here because we need somebody to take Klay Thompson's deal. So Klay goes to the Magic. You need to get about another $21 million to get to that level. Let's see here. Najee Marshall, I think, would have to be the piece going back to the Pelicans. You send Powell to the Magic, kind of another ballast there. You send a couple of first-round picks to the Pelicans. And then as far as other assets, you trade them Omax if they're high on him. If not, then put a second-round pick in there. 31. I think we're pretty close. Try this trade. What are we over on the Magic? Oh, I didn't put a piece in from Orlando yet. Close this. Orlando, they could trade Cole Anthony to give him at least a point guard since they don't have one right now because of injury. Try this trade. Pelicans, I think, are over for salary. Yes, they are. Move $100,000. I'm over $100,000? Really? All right. You throw in cash to make this deal happen, but say you send Javonte Green to the Magic, and you send, I don't know, a second-round pick to the Pelicans. There's a fleecing. So Dallas gets two big wings that they can utilize. I think Murphy is more of a point forward as well, kind of in that vein of LeBron and of Doncic, and he's really performed really well lately. This trade would also allow them to be available for some other deals as well, some buyouts. Shams on X. Let's see, what do we got? Finally, okay. So the Suns are getting rid of Yusuf Nurkic and a 26th first rounder to the Hornets in exchange for Cody Martin, Micic, and a second-round pick. Wow, they were able to only offload one first-round pick to be able to offload his salary. Wow. I like it for both sides. One, I like that the Hornets are getting a first-rounder while taking on Nurkic's deal. No problem there. You're giving up Cody Martin in this deal and a second-round pick. Why are we including a pick at all if we're Charlotte? Maybe you have too many of them. Maybe that's the thought process there. But, wow. But now the Suns are very small. Maybe they can offer... Does this also get them underneath the threshold as well? Wow. I'm wondering if things are really wide open with Charlotte right now and they're just trying to get as many assets as they can. If you're looking for a fleecing, if you're looking for a win now trade, that makes me think of the Hornets again. Wow, the Suns get off of Nurkic's deal, only giving up one pick. That's a surprise. And they get a pick back in return. So I'm going to look at this trade from the Hornets' perspective. If they're really in that much of a need to sell off these pieces, Miles Bridges is sitting there as a quote-unquote scorer. $27 million is the number, though. You'd probably have to take back Klay Thompson. You'd probably lose at least Dwight Powell. Probably Najee Marshall. But let's say they go Omax as the young guy. You trade him a first-round pick to be able to spur this thing along. How close are we salary-wise? We're at 22 versus 27. Do you convince them to give you back Josh Green? Cody Martin's gone. Micic is gone. Maybe bring back Seth Curry once again. Just for kicks and giggles. I'm just going to try it just to see what it looks like. 4.5 million. I got a little cute there at the end with Curry. Maybe put Exum in there, but let's take off Curry and just see what it looks like. Still 4.4. So yeah, you'd have to include Najee Marshall in this trade. You take out Powell, you take out Omax. Now try the trade. You're still over the threshold. Is there a trade kicker on his contract, perhaps? You have to cut 2.7, so you throw Powell back in this trade. Wherever he's at. At the top, I'm guessing. There he is. Now try the trade. Not as much as a fleecing, but that'd be a difference-making scorer for you. This Suns trade was unnecessary. Nurkic has been a problem for the Nets all season long. They didn't want him on the club. He's at odds with the head coach. But the Suns do need a center. There are Kevin Durant talks going on. I kind of like this tweet here. Let's make things really interesting. Let's do a Kevin Durant one, because I don't think he's going to get traded. But, let me reset everything and refresh our page here. If there were to be a trade, Mavericks would still have to pretty much give up the farm to make it happen. But they need a center. You trade KD. You trade Klay. You trade Gaff. You trade Marshall. You trade Powell. You trade Omax. Let's see how close we get with that one. I think we're a little light. About $6.5 million left. So even if you included Exum and you included Hardy, I'm really trying to do this trade without including PJ Washington. You just miss it by about $1 million. So you couldn't do it without including PJ Washington. So if you include PJ, which pieces would you have to keep? Exum would keep. Omax you keep. Hardy you keep. Washington over here. Salary rise, you're about $6 million off. Try the trade. You're a little off. Suns need to cut $6 million now. So let's take off Powell. You'd still need to cut a little bit more salary here. Royce O'Neal would be an interesting piece. Najee's making how much? $8.5. Then you throw in Powell. How close are we? Hard caps. Okay, so they wouldn't be able to do it from the second apron standpoint. Still doesn't make a whole lot of sense there. I just don't think Kevin Durant's getting traded, guys. We've tried doing it multiple different ways. I just don't think it's going to happen. People are saying this move proves KD is gone, but I think he stays. I still think he stays as well. I mean, it literally guts everything the Mavs have as far as a roster. All the roster building that they've done to get this, thing to where it's at, I mean, it just doesn't work. All right. Let's head back over to X and see if anything else is happening at the moment. Phoenix acquired first-round picks on the Utah deal to attach to a potential deal to unload a player. That player is Nurk, absolutely. Wow. After the addition of Mark Williams, the Lakers are now the fourth best odds to win the title. What? They go from being a good team, having a good year, to a team that's now considered a title favorite in the Western Conference. Wow. That's impressive. I just saw a tweet pop up on my phone. Let me see if I can pull it up. Maybe it wasn't a tweet. Was that just a headline? According to Shams, multiple squads are making really aggressive calls to the Suns regarding a potential trade. I'm sure they are, but I don't think he's going to go. Mark Stein just sent something out. Let's pull that up for you guys. The expectation, I'm told, is that newly acquired Anthony Davis will make his Mavs debut Saturday at home against Houston rather than tonight in Boston. Kind of what we expected. We were hopeful for it when the trade happened that he'd be back by Thursday, which is today. But it doesn't look like it's going to happen. I'm not overly disappointed. I mean, it would be tough for him to get up and acclimated to the team anyway, especially coming from injury. He's able to do a little bit of shooting, but they haven't done any sets or anything like that in practice. And until he's able to do that kind of a thing, I thought it'd be a little bit of time. I'm sure they're starting to implement those things, but I think they just want to be careful with AD more than anything else and just show that he's prepared and ready to go once they're good to, or once he's healthy, that he stays healthy, that he doesn't have to come out, that he doesn't have to miss a game or miss back-to-backs because of this injury continuing to linger. And so just making sure he's good to go, I think, is the top priority for Dallas right now. And Boston's going to be a tough game. You could really use a player like AD. But it sounds like you might be without P.J. Washington already. Derek Lively's already injured. Gaff had to exit the last game due to a stinger. We'll see how he performs in this one. Max Christie played well. Give him some more run on the floor. And just let some of these young guys really kind of keep going with this group here. Let's see here. Let's hope the Mavs do that. Agree. Rafe, AD would have had a better cheer for him today than at home. I'll put it this way. I think the home crowd is going to give it to Nico Harrison mercilessly outside of the stadium before the game, maybe even after the game. But my hope is that the Mavericks faithful, once the introductions are made, that Anthony Davis is going to be in the lineup. Let's see if he actually gets some cheers. I really hope they do cheer him because he deserves it. He's still a great player, and the Mavericks are lucky to have him. Now, Would you rather have had Luka? Would rather you have not made the trade at all? Absolutely. Rafe, rest in peace to the Bears owner. Yes, indeed. She indeed passed away. All right, let's see if there's anything else happening. Mark Scotto. Phoenix was looking to include Yusuf Nurkic in talks for Nick Richards and coveted Hornets Cody Martin. Interesting. All the way back in January. But they don't get Nick Richards out of that deal either to give them a center. So they are going to have to get one. They do have assets, though. The first-round picks that they acquired in that deal a couple of weeks ago with the Utah Jazz do give them some ammunition to go after somebody. They have Royce O'Neal. They have some contracts that are tradable to bring in a low-cost center. And, of course, Mo Bamba is still sitting out there in free agency after he was cut the other day. He is having a pretty good year this as well in the limited minutes that he was playing for the Clippers. Looking at his numbers, they actually look pretty good. Now, as far as watching the actual games, I haven't seen Bamba on the court too much with the Clippers, but from his numbers, he looks like he was actually a positive force for them. A little bit surprised that they ultimately dealt him away. Let's see here. We are about an hour 20 until the deadline. We've had a couple of decent-sized deals today, but most of the big deals have already come off the board. Rafe, honestly, I'm kind of excited about Max, but still a stupid trade. If we got 5 more picks out of it, then it'd be like, okay, sucks to see him go, but at least we got a good return. I'd agree with 5 picks, I mean, for sure. But the way most people are viewing it, from what I've seen, the people who think this was a good trade, is they view AD as 3 or 4 first-round picks. And that Luka, at his best, was probably worth 7. I think, personally, it was probably worth more than that because of what he's worth to a franchise. But I think you've probably gotten like 8 or 9 first-round picks from a team, but a team can only have 7 at any given time. It's very difficult to even get to that many picks. But they're saying they view Anthony Davis as 3 or 4 first-round picks, depending on how you view him. Max Christie has another first-round pick, so that gets you to 4 or 5 range. Then the pick that they got gets you close to 6. So you're saying as far as the total value is pretty close to what you might get. It's still on the light side, no question, but that it's not quite as bad as everybody's making it out to be. Now, am I in that camp? I don't think so. I think I'd still expect a lot more, especially when the remnants that were left over from the Los Angeles Lakers were good enough to be able to get you Mark Williams. I mean, come on, man. I mean, you should have at least gotten the second first-round pick out of it. You should have at least been trying to get Dalton Connect or Austin Reeves. But they were looking to do something different than Austin Reeves anyway. Maybe you force him to take another bad deal. Maybe you force him to take Klay Thompson and you get Hachimura back and the first-round pick. But ultimately, I mean, having Klay Thompson on this team without Luka just doesn't make sense. The trade for Luka in the first place doesn't make sense. But I really hope that the Mavericks faithful give AD and Max Christie the warm welcome they deserve. Rafe, I mean, Luka is 25 in the face of the franchise. AD is older and just a bad injury history. True, but I will say AD has really changed his conditioning and nutrition habits over the last couple of years and been a lot healthier. Now, this recent stretch of games is the most games he's missed all season long, which is, 7 or 8 games now? Luka's still missed more, I will say that, but AD certainly made some efforts to make himself a little bit more fragile and a little bit more durable and dependable, anyway, not fragile. But we'll see what happens. Let's head back over to X and see if anything else is going on. Nothing there. All right, so with about an hour, 20 minutes to go until the deadline, what are some of the names we can look for here at the deadline? You got Kevin Durant still sitting out there. I don't think he's going to move, but he's the biggest name. To me, I would be looking at the Pelicans. They got underneath the tax last night with the trade with Oklahoma City with Daniel Tice. They make the trade for Brandon Ingram as well. I think they've got 2 expiring deals that are burning a hole in their pocket right now. Kelly Olynyk, I think, could be rerouted somewhere. Bruce Brown, I think, could be rerouted or signed to an extension there in New Orleans. And then, of course, you get to Herb Jones, who's out right now, but I think has incredible value on the market. I think there's a legitimate chance the team's going to try to push for him with him being injured and see if New Orleans budges on it. Great contract for him as well. And then Trey Murphy. He's the number 1 asset I think that I would like the Mavs to acquire. And I think he's one of the most ascending players the NBA has to offer right now. I think he has a real chance to be a star by the end of this year and could be an all-star as soon as, say, not next year, but the following year. We'll see what ultimately happens. But I think there's some good talent still left out there on the market. Cam Johnson from the Brooklyn Nets. Pretty much anybody on that Nets roster could be had. Cam Thomas has some interest as a point guard. Nick Claxton as well has been drawing some interest. The DeAndre Hunter sweepstakes there for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Maybe they get that one across the finish line. Which piece are you guys looking to see get traded here as we get closer to the deadline? Rafe, definitely some excitement for Max as long as he doesn't think about the trade to get him. I would say that the fan base has got to be a little bit happy with Max after how he performed the other day. Would I say that they're going to cheer him? Remains to be seen. That's what I'm really hoping for, is that they save their boos for the front office and Nico Harrison. And rather than just giving the people who work at the stadium, the team a hard time, booing the team the entire game, I would like to see them actually appreciate the game on the floor and appreciate AD and the benefits that they're going to have to having him on the roster, as well as Max Christie. There's not an undo button. There's not an, we made the wrong move, make the trade and get him back. It doesn't work that way. So we'll see what happens there. Rafe, can you do a Bucks trade? We can. Now remember, they just got rid of Middleton. They brought in Kuzma. As far as their depth, I think is the biggest concern for me. I think the pieces that they could move would be a guy like Bobby Portis, but if you're losing Bobby Portis, you need to replace him back. So what teams would have interest in a piece like Bobby Portis? Probably end up having to be a three-teamer, but let's say you go to a team like... Let's say you go to a team like Portland. They've come together on trades before for, Damian Lillard and others. Let's say you're looking for some more size. They need defense, that kind of a thing. I would like to see them do a Bobby Portis deal. Robert Williams makes some sense. He's had some good moments since he's been back, but he's still working his way back in there. That would be one move. I'd like to see a little bit cheaper of a player, though. So kind of get down into this range here. Does anybody stick out? A lot of young talent, but I don't think the Bucks could afford it. Let's go to a different club. Let's do the Nets. The Nets have a lot of tradable pieces. Cam Thomas is a point guard, but they need defense more than anything else. And most of their deals are bigger players. Back of the roster, they don't have a whole lot. So let's go to another one. Let's go to Toronto. See if they have anybody. Nobody that sticks out. Let's go back to the Wizards. Anthony Gill, that doesn't do anything for me. Sadiq Bey, nothing that really moves the needle. Let's go to Miami. Now, it'd be interesting to see the two teams that have a lot of animosity for one another come together on a trade. But say they look for a little bit more size now that Jimmy Butler's gone. So you trade Portis there. And in return, you're like, hey, we want Haywood Highsmith. We want some depth here. So we want to bring in Alec Burks. And you could try to get one of these other players like a Kevin Love, etc. But maybe they just want to save some money. And so they just go with those two there. So let's try the trade and see what it looks like. I think it's not going to work because of Miami, but let me just try it. Yeah, they're a little light on salary. So let's say they add Terry Rozier. I'm sure they would love to get rid of, but there's not a trade that makes sense there. Scrap this one. Bobby Portis to, say, Detroit. Malik Beasley, they just had him. I don't think they want to revisit that experience. Richardson, maybe. They still have cap space, though, so they don't need to do matching salaries. Let's see. Multiple assets. Cheaper deal. Clippers have a lot of $10 to $8 million contracts, from what I remember. Derek Jones Jr. would be a good defender for them to go after. Let's say they send Bobby Portis there. They send Derek Jones the other way. Nick Batum the other way. Pat Connaughton back the other direction. You put Dunn and Amir Coffey. Now, I probably wouldn't do this trade if I were the Clippers. How close are we here? Need to trade an additional 1. So what would you have to give up here? Maybe you give up some scoring in Gary Trent. You're doing this to get additional assets here. You're not looking to lose pieces. Maybe you trade a Livingston here to the Clippers. Maybe a pick. Let's say you trade the second round pick there to the Clippers just to kind of make things work. There's your trade. Not too bad. There's a Milwaukee Bucks trade for you there, Rafe. Hunter to the Cavs. Let's see if that one got across the finish line. Wow. Cleveland is getting DeAndre Hunter. They're giving up 2 rotation pieces, which is surprising to me. Caris LeVert and Georges Niang. A couple of 3 second-round picks and a couple of pick swaps. Wow. That's a big, big return for DeAndre Hunter. Wow. Excellent deal for the Cavs. I get he brings size and length and exactly what they need to face off against the Celtics, but that's a big ask. Wow. Where was Shams there? I like that one. They think they have the same source. Wow. Caris LeVert, Georges Niang. So Atlanta basically helps out their small forward spot after having Jalen Johnson go down. They get more versatile. Meanwhile, the Cavs get a little bit bigger at that spot, which is what they needed. Now the return here is what surprises me, that you're getting 2 for 1 and getting 3 seconds and a couple of swaps out of this one. Atlanta, to me, did great in this deal. That's a win for them for sure. Win for the Cavs, though, because they needed some size, absolutely. But they certainly paid through the nose for it. I mean, DeAndre Hunter, to me, is not that big of an improvement over what they already have talent-wise. The main thing he helps with is the size and the ability to defend bigger wings. LeVert doesn't have that ability. Niang is more of a traffic cone out there at times. 3 seconds, I could have seen, sure. The 2 swaps in there are the surprising thing to me as well. Not that we're expecting Cleveland to be bad anytime soon, but say Donovan Mitchell requests a trade at some point, or God forbid an injury happens, and then you finish outside in the lottery land, and then you'd have the rights to swap there. So kind of interesting there. Contract details: LeVert 16-6. Niang is signed for a couple years. Look at the money though on DeAndre Hunter. Cavs, I guess, save a little bit of money. That's the good part. Will the Detroit Pistons do anything? They're going to at least eat some contracts for assets in return. I know it's not what the Pistons wanted. Let's see what happens over the next hour or so. Yeah, I don't see any reason why Detroit would be doing anything different. They're at least a better team this year, but they need to continue to build their roster rather than invest in the team right now. I think they need to utilize those expiring deals that they have and see if they can offload Tobias Harris to some contender that thinks he still has something left to give. I think that would be best for their long-term future, but I don't think they're going to do that. All right, let's check out our notification, clear those off. Expect a corresponding move by Atlanta since this trade initially puts them in the luxury tax. Cavs drop below the tax threshold. Makes some sense. So maybe there could be a third team in this one, like the Detroit Pistons, who get below the tax by trading them a piece or 2. Maybe a couple of those seconds would ultimately be rerouted to allow the Pistons to take on a salary of some kind from the Hawks to kind of complete this deal. Let me refresh this page just so we can kind of look at the Hawks roster real quick and just see what makes some sense for them to do. Maybe they find a taker for David Roddy's deal. Couple of seconds to Detroit to take on David Roddy. That could be in the cards. T-Nugs, Blazers on a hot streak, having Joe Cronin absolutely fold this trade deadline. If Blazers don't do a thing, it's a big L. I would agree. As far as the Blazers, I think they've got some good assets, but they chose to buy this offseason for some inexplicable reason. Denny Advia, I thought he would have been a great get for the Mavericks because they were actually talking to the Wizards about Kuzma and Denny Advia at the deadline last year. Instead, they bought him, sent 2 first-rounders out the door to bring him in. Not saying that he's not a good asset, not saying that he's not a good piece to build for the future, but you look at this roster, I mean, where is the improvement going to come from? The young guys, and that's about it. DeAndre Ayton anyway, complete miss for that organization as far as a signing. I would have liked to seen him possibly be traded somewhere that could eat that contract and free up some money there for the Portland Trailblazers to utilize. I think Anthony Simons has kind of run his course there in Portland as well, but they don't really have a long-term solution yet. So for now, I think they're going to stick with Simons and Henderson there. Getting Williams back healthy was a good thing, but I think having him healthy now they should be looking to trade him as well. Matisse Thybulle, I thought, was a good signing for them when they originally did it, but he doesn't get too much playing time, and I think he's playing behind some of those younger guys like he should. They should be looking to trade him for a team that's looking to improve their defense at the trade deadline here. So maybe they'll get a deal done, but as it stands right now, they haven't really said or haven't done anything, haven't been in any rumors either. The only official trade today is the Jared Springer deal. All the other deals will be final sometime soon. No surprise, Russ won't return to the Steelers. True. Manfred said he doesn't agree that the Dodgers spending is bad for baseball. I mean, no kidding. He works for the owners. I would expect him to say that. He wants to always say the game is doing really well. How often do you see, the leader of a business say, "We're doing terribly. You shouldn't be coming to our sport. You shouldn't be investing in our, in our product." You don't see that. Alrighty, kind of a slow deadline day today, if I'm going to be honest. It's been fairly slow. Nurkic deal to the Hornets was a good deal, I believe, for the Suns. The Hornets get a first-round pick out of it, but I'm surprised they had to give up a second in that deal. Good on them for not having to include Nick Richards, though, at least. I guess that's kind of the ballast there. As far as the other trades that we've seen, DeAndre Hunter, one of the bigger ones that has come down today. PJ Tucker gets to go to the Raptors as well. But like I said, not too much movement going on. Just to kind of remind you guys, for those of you who do watch our baseball lives, we'll have our MLB Hot Stove Daily this evening as well. We'll have a bunch of short videos kind of updating you guys on the market as well. Kind of the trades that went down today. We'll put little short videos out there for those of you who weren't here to get the analysis of those. Feels slow because most of the big name moves are done. Absolutely. All right, we're going to take a short break, kind of prepare for the final hour of the show anyway. If you guys want to hit that like and subscribe, we'll be back in just a moment. Hopefully we get some activity as we get closer to the bell here, some bigger trades. But we shall see. We'll be back here in just a moment. And welcome back into the NBA trade deadline show here at the Upside Sports Network. My name is Michael. Appreciate you guys sticking with us on trade deadline day. We are getting very close to the 1 hour bell until we get to the trade deadline. About an hour to go. We've finally seen a couple of trades happen. Jusuf Nurkic gets offloaded from the Phoenix Suns along with a first round pick. Basically trying to get them below that second apron anyway. Good on them for offloading his salary. That really needed to happen. Also, the Cleveland Cavaliers have added a big wing from the Atlanta Hawks in DeAndre Hunter. They also send out Karis LeVert, Georges Niang, 3 second-round picks, and a couple of swaps. On the screen, you can kind of see Brian Windhorst updating the information. As service for Cavs corner, swaps are 26 and 28, which means they're swaps on swaps, with those already swapped with the Utah from Donovan Mitchell trade. So kind of makes some sense here. They already had traded the swaps anyway to Utah, so Utah will have the first right of refusal. If Utah doesn't want to swap, then Atlanta would have the ability to. So while the return looked really big with the 2 swaps being included there, it's unlikely that those swaps will actually go through. But still, you get 3 second-round picks out of it. I'm guessing a couple of those will be utilized by Atlanta to offload some salary so they can dip underneath the tax, but good get all the way around. Turned on ESPN Trade Deadline Show, and the first thing I heard was that they were getting Hunter on an expiring deal. He's under contract for 26 and 27. He just didn't hear it right. Let's see here. Boucher or Nance in Denver. Denver Nuggets are a team to watch for Chris Boucher. That would be an interesting one. I think they do need some more depth there. Maybe Georges Niang goes back the other way. Again, the only trade so far that's actually official is the Jaden Springer deal from Boston. Update our page here. I so much love the multi-time swaps trend that the Suns began taking to the extreme. Cool to see the Cavs do it now. I would agree. Let's head over to Hoops Rumors and just see if anything else is going on at the moment from anybody I might not have in our stack there. There's the Jusuf Nurkic deal. Suns get a wing in this one in Cody Martin, as well as a second-round pick. I think they did fairly well offloading his contract. But he hadn't been getting along with that coaching staff, and they finally find a way to offload his salary. I doubt he will ever get a contract that big again. But who knows? He's going to be taking the minutes from Williams and see how he performs. Nothing new there. Alrighty, so while we're getting closer, it's now 1 hour until the deadline, so the 1 hour bell has sounded. Let's see if we can kind of reset the market for you, names to kind of watch for over the next hour or so. We'll start with the biggest name. Kevin Durant is still having his name talked about a little bit here and there. As far as other names to keep an eye out for, first name I want to bring to your attention is going to be some of the names from the Toronto Raptors and the New Orleans Pelicans. Pelicans, they brought in a couple of guys from the Raptors in that deal for Brandon Ingram, Kelly Olynyk, guys like Bruce Brown, players like Chris Boucher, among others, could be available from both clubs. New Orleans also has some really premium assets, guys like Trey Murphy, guys like Herb Jones, and then they have kind of the big swing type of a piece anyway in Zion Williamson. Fred VanVleet would be another name if the Rockets were willing to make a big trade that would probably be headed out the door. I do not see them making a big trade today, so kind of keep that one on the back burner if things do change there down in Houston. Boston's basically done their move. This move for Cleveland is their essential move that they were going to make. They dip underneath the tax threshold as well with this transaction. We could see a little bit more out of Philadelphia as well. All of these teams are kind of on the periphery of some moves. But as far as teams looking to buy, still today, we look at the New York Knicks. We look at the Los Angeles Lakers, the Dallas Mavericks. Golden State is said to be looking as well. Chicago has 4 different pieces that could be on the move today. Kevin Huerter, Trey Jones, Kobe White, and Nikola Vucevic. The Warriors are said to be one of the teams that's trying to get that one done today. We'll see if they get that one across the finish line. Dallas is said to be looking for another ball handler, another scorer to add to this lineup. They were looking for another scorer even before the trade of Luka Doncic. So I don't think that need has gone away since their offense, I think, is a little bit worse than what it was before the trade. I think their dynamic nature of Luka Doncic is gone. Now, do I still think they're going to be a productive offense? Absolutely. You got AD. I mean, it's a 27-ish, 27-point-a-game scorer. You got Kyrie Irving still on this team, but who's the third banana? You don't see too many teams still do the 3 superstar route anymore, which is why I doubt the Mavericks go the route of KD. But I still think there's a number of guys in that $15 to $30 million range that could qualify as that third star. And for me, Trey Murphy is the guy I would be trying to target there if I were Dallas. For the Lakers, they're just looking for depth, whether it be guard, wing, or center. They're happy to bring in pretty much anybody that would add to their roster. Now, they don't have a whole lot left to trade. Basically, some second-round picks is what they got left. But we'll see which direction they go. They brought in their 2 biggest pieces this offseason, or this trade deadline. Luka Doncic completely reset the timetable for this organization, and they get him a lob threat there in Mark Williams. I wouldn't be surprised if in the offseason they get an extension done with those guys there. Let's see here. Other names to kind of keep an eye on as far as fits here. The Clippers have been relatively quiet. They got a lot of contracts that are very tradable deals. Deals in the range of like $5 to $20 million. All of those deals really make they're kind of the fabric of a trade here. If you're looking to make a big trade for a $35 million salary, you package a couple of those guys together to make it work and kind of go about your business. Now, if a team has, say, another $35 million player that they don't necessarily want, or that the other team doesn't necessarily want, maybe the Clippers do, and they could be the third team in a trade that makes the trade actually get done. So they would be a team that I could see facilitate a lot of trades today based on the contracts that they have to work with. Utah is another one. Detroit is another one that has a lot of contracts that are very tradable, as well as the Washington Wizards. Very interesting situation down there in Charlotte after the decision to trade Mark Williams. Now the decision to acquire Yusuf Nurkic. Curious to see what the long-term plan is for them. Now, did they improve by bringing in Nurkic? No, I do not think so. I think Williams was a better player. Now, what does this mean for them as far as their draft pick accumulation? Are they going to continue to try to do that? Try to trade Miles Bridges? Are they going to try to trade LaMelo Ball? LaMelo, probably not. Bridges, I think he'd be kind of one of the bigger names. That's a surprise that could be moved here at the deadline. Let's update our page and see if anything else is happening at the moment. A lot of people are finally starting their lives, so we've been live since about 10 o'clock. Appreciate you guys sticking with us this whole morning. Now afternoon. 56 minutes left until the deadline. Biggest trade of the day, I would probably say it is DeAndre Hunter to the Cleveland Cavaliers, because I think it's the most impactful trade we've seen so far, at least today. Now, yesterday we did get a couple of bigger ones. Brandon Ingram goes to the Raptors. We saw that one go through. Mark Williams, at the very end of the day, goes from the Hornets to the Lakers. And then the biggest trade of the day, the 5-team trade, Jimmy Butler goes to the Golden State Warriors and immediately signs a 2-year, $121 million contract there. So some of your big trades over the last 48 hours anyway. And then, of course, the biggest trade of all of them, Luka Doncic AD, late Saturday night into Sunday morning. Yeah, that was just a crazy deal that nobody saw coming, and will have ramifications not just this year, not just next year, but 5 years from now, 10 years from now. We'll still be talking about the impact of that move. Now, how long we'll be talking about this one? Probably for at least the next 20 years. That's how big, how shocking of a move it was that the Mavericks traded Luka. Let's update the page one more time. Bobby Marks, a bold and aggressive move by Cleveland. Rarely do we see a conference-leading team make a regular season trade. Cleveland goes below the tax this season, but has 5 players next season earning between $20 and $46 million. So maybe that could lead to Cleveland offloading a salary or 2. Zach Lowe, solid trade for the Cavs. Hunter fits what they need a little bit better than LeVert. Spot-up shooting and size, though LeVert is probably feistier on defense. Hunter playing more decisively this season. Yang's minutes were often limited already. Hunter can play some power forward. Yes, the biggest thing for me about Hunter is his size. He's able to defend guys like Tatum, players like that. And if he gets switched onto a bigger player in the post, he can handle himself. Now, they already have centers there. They don't have to worry about that. But having bigger size on the wing is what they needed to face the Tatums and Browns in the Eastern Conference. He follows that up with Hunter's contract is fine, gives Cleveland some cost certainty with LeVert headed to free agency. Cleveland on track to be expensive either way. Atlanta clears the decks, gets some draft assets, reunites Niang and Quinn Snyder just for fun. Interesting moves there. Let's update the page one more time, see if anything else is going on. 54 minutes to go until the deadline. head back over to the trade machine and go over some posts here, see what people are coming up with as we get closer to the deadline. They ain't bringing in Miles Turner for Daniel Gafford. Not going to click on that one. Halliburton ain't going anywhere. Although they think they could use him to be more decisive. I mean, he was in single digits in points again the other night, and they lost by 20. Halliburton just needs to get it through his head that sometimes he needs to be more assertive offensively, look for his shot a little bit more. Turnovers aren't necessarily a huge problem for him, but his lack of decisiveness when it comes to making a decision to try to drive and get a bucket for himself rather than drive and kick, that needs to be addressed. Now, the trade for LaMelo, if it becomes such a big problem to where you don't think he'll ever solve it, kind of in the vein of Luka Doncic, then maybe you make that type of a move. But I don't think they need to do that. But I just think a conversation needs to be had between Rick Carlisle and Halliburton that, hey, it's okay to look for your shot every now and again, too. It's okay to take a bad shot because you have to keep that defense honest. Team still aggressively pursuing KD. I know we've talked a lot about Dallas and KD. What about some other fits for KD? I know Miami would be an interesting one. Let's go ahead and do another KD trade and just see what it could possibly look like. I know that they've talked about it in the past already. Let's go ahead and do Miami and the Suns. Now, they're still a second apron team, so remember, you can't bring back more as far as a contract. So we'll start with Kevin Durant. That's your first piece. You're going to have to probably include Terry Rozier because they want a point to go back the other way. Now, as far as assets, what asset could you send? Tyler Hero, I think you're looking to keep him. Duncan Robinson, maybe he would be the ballast as far as salary. Trade assets for picks. You got your first this year, or from Golden State anyway, you got your 26. 27's gone. They do have 29. They do have 31. So, say they include Miami's 30, or their 29 pick and their 31st pick. Say they include the Golden State one as well from the Jimmy Butler deal. You trade Terry Rozier. You trade Duncan Robinson. You're close already as far as value. You trade Jaime Jaquez to kind of make this trade a little bit more even. That's actually pretty close. Trade not okay by 3.1. You need to include more salary. So 3.1. Let's say you trade him Burks to give him more depth. Highsmith, I suppose, for more depth. And going back the other way, you want a point guard back, so you get Tyus Jones. Let's see if that gets us close. So we're a little over the salary that we can go with. So close it and let's finish off this trade. Take out Highsmith. Take out Jones. Salary works there. I think it works for them as well. That it does. So basically Durant goes to the Heat in exchange for Rozier, Robinson, and a couple of depth players, a young player that they can hopefully build with in Jaquez, and 3 first-round picks for KD. That's a heck of a trade for them, but they are taking the contract of Duncan Robinson and taking a negative asset there in Terry Rozier. Does it solve their issue at center? No, it does not. Would I do this trade for 25? If I'm the Suns, probably not as well. Bregman has no interest in deal under 6 or 7 years. Makes some sense. He's been looking for a deal all offseason in that range. Let's update our Twitter feed, see if anything is happening with less than 50 minutes to go. Too many Mark Williams fans. There's no way this many people watch the Hornets. I like that one. Oh, man. Hornets games are pretty tough to watch occasionally, but they got some good talent now. Miller's there. You got Ball there. You have a couple of other guys there as well. I'm trying to even think of them off the top of my head. Nick Richards is there. Josh Green is there. Um, Bridges is a good player for them, but Bridges might not have a long-term future there. Let me refresh our page here. Let's go back over to the posts and see if anything else there kind of catches our eye. Wagner in exchange for Kleba. Gives him a big. I guess would be my response to that one if I'm the Orlando Magic. I don't make that trade. For the Suns, you trade KD to Houston. That's been the one team all along that's had some interest in the Suns breaking that team apart. You're giving up the first in 25, the first in 27 from Phoenix, giving it back to them. Interesting. And you're giving up the swap rights from Phoenix and Dallas in 29. For KD, yikes. That would be a no from me if I'm the Phoenix Suns. I would want a little bit more. I like Reed Sheppard. I don't think he's a solution yet. And the $10 million salary, that's kind of big for a rookie who's not exactly proven to be there yet. Jabari Smith has proven to be a good player that can serve a role, but Dillon Brooks does nothing for me. I still have an issue with size. Now, Jabari Smith does help with size, but he basically fills the spot vacated by Kevin Durant in the lineup. And the picks don't help me in 25, so unless I'm looking to go into a rebuild, I'm not taking that offer. KD to OKC, that would be an interesting one. He kind of fits what they need, a bigger player, scoring player. They'd probably have to give up Jay Will to be able to make that trade happen, and I don't think they would do that kind of a thing. That would shake up their chemistry a little bit too much. Trading Reed would be absolutely wild, I would agree. Not because it would work great for the Suns, but that the timing of it, they just drafted him. I mean, the Lakers just drafted Dalton Connect, but that didn't seem to matter. But I just don't think that there's enough opinion one way or the other to trade him. Let's see here. Go through a couple of these other ideas that people are posting. Grizzlies trade Marcus Smart, and they're getting, what, Clint Capella back? No, thank you. DeAndre Hunter trade. Yes, we saw that one. Miles Bridges for Thompson, Hardaway, and I'd prefer to include a guy like Tobias Harris over a Sir Thompson and go the draft pick route and bring in Miles Bridges. But giving up Hardaway, not worried about that one. Not worried about Wendell Moore, but a Sir Thompson you got to give to get. I'd rather give up picks than give up Thompson. I keep going back to X because we're getting close to the deadline here, so I apologize if it starts to get a little annoying there, but let's see here. Between Hunter Wade for all your accounting needs, Okoro, Strus, Cavs have a solid versatile wing rotation. Same was true with LeVert instead of Hunter, but Hunter is a better fit in cost in draft assets worth even a small to medium upgrade. Yes, but I don't think it's necessarily helping them too much outside of size. I think talent-wise, they're about the same than they were as far as they were before the trade. But size, it will help them against the Celtics. I think I would have gone a different direction, like a player like Trey Murphy would be a better player that I think would fit great there in Cleveland. Don't necessarily need him as a scorer there. Maybe a Herb Jones would be a better fit than Trey Murphy. But say if Herb Jones had been on the market, maybe go that route than DeAndre Hunter. I'd rather have seen them go for something like that. Let's see here. Nothing else new. Georges Niang, yes. Except it's a sliding door on the side of a minivan. Oh, man. Let's see here. Posts. Nothing happening there. Alright, let's go back down to this trade here. Alright, Lakers get Boucher for Kleba and a pick. That one makes some sense for me. Probably need a little bit more than just a pick, though. Maybe a younger piece as well. Sleeper KD trade to the Spurs. I wouldn't do that if I was San Antonio. Grizzlies get KD. I wouldn't do that. Smaller trade there for Whitehead for Jaquez. I don't do that trade either. Christian Wood, Larry Nance, Austin Reeves. Who are the Lakers getting this one? They're getting Larry Nance and Vit Krejci and a pick, or at least the rights to a pick. No thank you. Selling high on Reeves makes sense, but the trade itself does not. My FYP page is AD dropping 42 points, 23 rebounds on Mark Williams. Well, gotta have some silver lining, my friend. Rozier and Highsmith for Bogdanovich and Nance. You at least offload Rozier. That's the positive there if you're Miami. But you're taking on the contract of Bogdanovich, and you still have issues with the point, and you have Jimmy Butler, the ball handler, is now gone as well. You're going to be relying a lot on Davion Mitchell. That's my only worry there. Dennis Schroeder to the Pistons in exchange for Fontecchio. They send Fontecchio back to the Jazz? No, thank you. Got about 42, 41 minutes until the deadline. Looks like almost all the big moves are done. We should see a bunch of specialists being traded here in the next half hour or so. So look at players like that are making really small salaries. Like, for instance, Seth Curry makes $2 million. He could be had as a shooter for some team for a protected second-round pick. He doesn't have a lot of value, which is why you'd protect the second-round pick. But, hey, it's better than losing him for nothing. I get he has a connection there to Charlotte, etc., but I think that would be one piece that we could see moved. There's a bunch of specialists that are going to be moved here at the deadline in the final hour. As far as big trades that we might see, Dallas is still looking to do something else. I'd be surprised if their roster, was what it is right now after the deadline. I still think they need to add one more offensive piece here. We've heard nothing, though, as far as any players besides Kevin Durant. Maybe they're that one team that keeps pushing there, that when they say teams are aggressively pursuing Kevin Durant, maybe that's what they're referring to. But honestly, I'd be surprised. I wouldn't do the trade if I were the Mavs, but I wouldn't have done the Luka trade either, and they chose to go ahead and do that one. But that's one team that we've heard literally nothing from. The Lakers make their move. We do get the follow-up move here from the Reggie Jackson deal. The 76ers have waived their two-way player. Interesting. Still pretty much nothing. All right, let's go ahead and have some fun here. Let's try to, with less than 45 minutes now to go before the deadline, what would be some of the names that we could see traded here? Jimmy Butler's already gone. Let's go through the list here. Jimmy Butler's gone. Kevin Durant probably doesn't get moved. Oh, we got a trade, and it's actually a surprising one. The Clippers are trading Terrence Mann and Bones Hyland to the Atlanta Hawks for Bogdan Bogdanovich and 3 second-round picks. Wow. I'm stunned that they traded Terrence Mann. Bogdanovich, Hyland, the second-round picks, don't care about any of that. But Terrence Mann, that was one of the players that they were not willing to give up for any of the big stars that have become available over the last, 3 years or so. Terrence Mann's defense is very valuable. Absolute win here if you're Atlanta. The 3 second-round picks that you just acquired from the Cavs go in this deal along with Bogdanovich, and you get off of his money. Bones Hyland doesn't matter too much to me. I already have Dyson Daniels and Trae Young at that spot, so maybe he's the nothing part of this deal. But boy, oh boy, they get Terrence Mann here. Should have been the Mavs. That's kind of my thoughts here. Give Luka some trouble defensively. He's played Luka very well over the years. But boy, if you're looking for defense, Terrence Mann is your guy. I'm surprised the Clippers are moving him. If they're taking on Bogdan, they want a little bit more offense on their team. Does that mean Derek Jones Jr. is now available again? Does that mean a guy like Nick Batum could be had? I told you guys the Clippers would be a good team to kind of trade with. They have a lot of that $5 to $20 million contracts that are very flexible in trades. It's kind of what we get here with Terrence Mann. But boy, Terrence Mann being the piece that goes out, it's not as shocking as Luka, obviously. But it is shocking that they move him after all this time saying, nope, we ain't moving him. He's too valuable defensively, etc. Just wow. That's a surprising deal. Okay, let's go ahead and look at the deal itself. The Clippers, let's pull them up just to kind of see what his contract is. Are they getting him just to offload Bogdanovic's deal? Or are they getting him to keep him there in Atlanta? I mean, they just gave up a defensive player. They just added 2 wings already. Is Terrence Mann part of the future there? He just signed he signed a 4 years. I don't know what his shooting numbers look like, but let's see if we have, or if the profile shows anything. I don't like the way they show stats on this site. That's the one thing. Shooting 45% from the field, 35% from 3. He's not an offensive player. It's kind of in line with what he's done in his career, but still on the low side for sure. For 3-point shooting. Field goal percentage is also a lot lower, so maybe they're just saying a decrease in production, and that's why he suddenly became available. That could be possible here. But surprising that the Clippers now find the time to move on from him. Especially with Luka now playing in that same building, or not in the same building anymore. They have their own arena now, but in that same city, having him on the roster with the Clippers would have been great to go up against Luka every single day. All right, let's update our page here. Let's continue our look down this list and see if there's any other names that kind of stand out to us here. Jimmy Butler already traded. Kevin Durant unlikely to move. Dennis Schroeder probably a buyout candidate. Wiggins probably going to stay there in Miami. Peyton, if they decide to trade Vucevic, could be part of the return. Kyle Anderson, I think, could be had as well by a team. Kevon Looney, same thing for that Vooch deal. Ingram got traded to the Raptors. Cam Johnson, one of the bigger pieces that could be moved here. Vucevic, we just mentioned. Gabe Vincent, kind of for salary matching purposes, could be moved. Josh Richardson, if you're looking for a veteran, could be had, but probably more of a buyout guy. But I think Detroit might try to hold on to him. They have a lot of good veterans that are past their prime. He kind of fits in with that group there. Connaughton could be a trade piece if Milwaukee tries to do anything else. Hachimura, Lakers would love to get off of his deal, even though I kind of like the player still. Isn't nearly as valuable as he once was, and maybe they can offload his deal and make him split that deal out among a couple other teams. DeAndre Hunter just got traded to the Cavs, and then Maxi Kleber seen as a trade asset for the Lakers again as salary filler. Hield, I don't see going anywhere. Waters, I don't see going anywhere aside from possibly being a cut anyway. Bruce Brown, I think, would be a good trade candidate here in the final 30 minutes of the trade deadline. Again, specialists get traded. Suns locker room is toxic per reports. Yikes. I mean, Bradley Beal not wanting to go anywhere else, does add to it. Nurkic not getting along with the coaching does add to it. But, I mean, this team is a KD and, Devin Booker-led team. I mean, if it's toxic, I don't know. Do you want to add a KD coming from a toxic locker room that had worked with Kyrie Irving in Brooklyn before? Gives you pause. Christian Wood, no thank you. Cam Reddish, I think he's going to stay there in Charlotte unless he gets cut and is a buyout candidate for some team. Clint Capella looks like he's going to stay in Atlanta for now. Nurkic just got dealt to the Hornets. Portis, again, for salary matching purposes. And then Terry Rozier, again, because he's having a poor season there in Miami. Let's update our X page again, just see if anything else is happening. He just signed a 3-year, $47 million extension in September. He'll be allowed to be traded because the extension did not violate the 6-month rule. Okay. You like the trade for the Clippers. Why? The second-round picks? I mean, you got to. I guess this negative downturn for Terrence Mann as far as production. Maybe that's why you like to trade for the Clippers. You trade him while he still has enough value. You get a couple of 3 round picks out of it and a shooter that you can utilize. Maybe that makes some sense. I mean, they do need more offense ever since Paul George left, and so you get a more offensively tilted player in Bogdanovich rather than a defensive player in Mann. Not saying he's Paul George, but I am saying he will help with their offense. Let's update it one more time. Fan reaction completely understandable to trading Luka, no kidding. All right, let's go ahead and do one more big trade before we get to the deadline here. About 30 minutes to go before the final buzzer sounds. Let's go ahead and do a team that I'm still expecting to do something big here at the deadline. I'm going to go back to my Mavericks here. Let's do something we haven't done before. Let's do a out of nowhere type of trade that nobody's talking about. Let's go to the Clippers. They just made the trade for Terrence Mann, traded a player I didn't think would be available for some more offense. They're not going to trade you offense. They're not going to trade you Kawhi. So never mind. Let's do a different one. Let's do the Kings, because they have a couple of pieces that actually could fit with Dallas. So we'll start with Klay Thompson going back the other way. Malik Monk would be the player that the Mavericks would probably want the most out of that group. Maybe Keegan Murray, but I don't think you'd be able to convince them to part with him. But you could be able to convince them with DeMar DeRozan. Now, if you just did this trade straight up, I think it would work just fine. But I think Dallas would prefer to stay underneath the tax, so you trade a player like Dwight Powell. You're still over the tax just a little bit, so you trade him a young player as well in Omax. There's 3 pieces going out for 1 in return. Salary, I think, works from Dallas's perspective. I'm not sure if it does from the Kings, but it does. They get underneath the tax, and now they can get that revenue. They might be a buyout destination as well. Rafe, people are real sketch at the fact that Lakers had a few trades, one-sided right as NBA signs new TV deal. The trades were one-sided. I'll definitely say the Luka trade was definitely one-sided. The Williams trade, I think, happened because the Mavericks trade was so one-sided. Now, do I have anything to believe that there was the NBA stepping in and saying the Lakers better get the next face of the NBA? I'm not quite to that level as far as a conspiracy theorist, but I will say the trade was very one-sided. It was an absolute masterclass by Rob Pelinka, if this is indeed legit, which I have no reason to believe it's not. But he did a great job. Nico Harrison identified a player he wanted in exchange for Luka Doncic. He approached the Lakers about the deal, and he's the one that agreed to trade the best player in the deal for AD, a pick, and Max Christie. So I get there's going to be some conspiracy theorists out there that say it's all about the ratings, the billionaires trying to take things back. Look at D. Wade saying things like this. Look at Austin Rivers saying things as well. But I will say that we've never really seen anything like that in NBA history. But there is reason to be skeptical because of how one-sided the trade ultimately was. Let's check X one more time. Yeah, don't really like that. Don't really get the sweep too much there. Jake Fisher, 3 second-round picks heading to from Atlanta to Los Angeles with Bogdanovich. The Minnesota second, the Clippers' own second, and Memphis' second, protected 43-60. Denver was another team that had serious interest in Terrence Mann. No surprise there. They could have utilized good defensive-minded guard like him. We are 28 minutes to go here until the deadline. Doesn't look like anything is happening at the moment. Just to show you how crazy the West is right now, the Mavs went from 11th in the West out of the play-in to 8th in the West, and they didn't play a game. Even during this rough stretch, they're playing without Luka and now without AD. that they've been without Derek Lively, that P.J. Washington has missed some time. They're working back into the groove of things. A couple of different players. Caleb Martin is out of the lineup right now. Quentin Grimes is out because of the trade. A lot of different things there. Rafe, I heard Dallas talk to Jazz about Luka, but before Jazz could get back to them, they took the LA deal. I did not hear that, but I mean, they would have already been a part of the discussions there at the final hour there with Danny Ainge. So I guess that would have been the one team that would have already have known about it. And when you're that far down the road, you're going to get the deal done. It wasn't necessarily a question of the Jazz being a real option there as far as I'm concerned. The one team I did hear rumors about them reaching out to before this thing even got started was Giannis from the Milwaukee Bucks. I haven't heard any of those reports actually confirmed, though. Nico Harrison says he only reached out to the Lakers, so I'm going to take him at his word that that's what he did. Atlanta has to clear 2 roster spots before Cleveland. Now the Clippers trade gets finalized. Makes some sense as well. Opens up a roster spot as well. So looking at the back half of that roster in Atlanta, what could they do? 2 players, if they're going to offload them back into this roster. David Roddy makes sense. Bye. Garrison Matthews as well. Bye. They got better wings now. Maybe they find a fit for a trade there. Let's go to notifications. Nothing there. Jake Paul versus Canelo seems like a done deal. Jake should get whooped, but still love to see that fight. I would agree. Canelo taking that deal with DAZN really kind of set his career apart from a lot of the other guys in the industry. But Jake Paul, it'll at least bring a lot of tickets. I'll put it that way. They'll be printing money for the fight. That's kind of what they did with Tyson. That's what they're doing again here. Nothing new. About 25 minutes to go until the deadline. Still waiting for anything really interesting to pop across the board. One surprise trade that we did get was Terrence Mann from the Clippers. That just happened about 10 minutes ago. But nowhere near the scale of what Luka Doncic was, obviously. Rafe would have been the most sold fight ever, I would think. Probably. I mean, as time goes along, I'm sure, there's going to be more and more, sales of the fight, sure. But there were certainly better fights, more well-attended fights, or more watched fights anyway back in the day. Just when you compare the older numbers to today's numbers, they're dwarfed because their population is just so much bigger. I like this one from Bill Simmons. How did Dallas not make this list? Bill Simmons tweet here. Philly, number 1. Phoenix, 2. Chicago, 3. New Orleans, 4. Detroit, 5. I don't understand what you're up to. So for Philly, trading away Martin, dipping underneath the tax. I mean, I get that part of it. I don't understand what's the not making sense part of it. That this season hasn't worked out, so why aren't you blowing this team up, I guess, is the thought process there. Phoenix, you're not really going anywhere, but you offload at least one negative salary and you attach a first-round pick to be able to offload that deal. I guess the question there would be, why are you offloading the deal in the first place when you aren't exactly a great team, or going the other direction, trading away Nurkic, attaching a pick, and adding another piece to this club? 3, Chicago. I think the clear direction there is that they are sellers. They still have brought in some good assets that they can further trade. I don't think that that's a miss as far as that one. New Orleans, they wanted to get under the tax like they always do. They make the trade of Ingram because they weren't able to come to an extension. Makes some sense, but again, long-term view, what are they doing with Zion would be the reason why they would be wondering about that one. And then Detroit, taking on bad deals. They're in a good spot playoff-wise as far as getting in there. So, I get the hesitation for, taking on more bad salaries, but it's what's got them there. And they're not exactly expected to win anything this year, so why change your plan there? Couldn't put Toronto on there because I haven't understood what they've been up to for a solid year. Uh, I mean, the BI acquisition was a little bit interesting. If the thought process there is that you're extending him, if you don't extend him, then I would agree that it doesn't make a whole lot of sense either. Interesting. Brad Rowland tweeted out, "There's more coming, folks, with reported confirmed deals. The Hawks have 17 players for 15 roster spots." The interesting part is who retweeted that is Brad Townsend. I'm wondering if he's hearing something with Dallas and Atlanta. It would be the most fight ever. KSI fighting Dylan Dennis is certainly a choice, though. Saw that Logan went through and decided he wanted to deal with Dennis Mouth as well. Pelicans went from up and coming to just bottom feeders again. They're still an up and coming team to me. I think they added more assets for an expiring deal that they were not going to re-sign anyway. So I don't think they've changed their trajectory at all based off of the moves. In fact, they've added more ammunition. But I think they need to make a decision on Zion, what they're going to do there, more than anything else. But again, back to the trade deadline stuff. Brad Townsend retweeted something about the Atlanta Hawks. Very curious there. Mavs have an open roster spot and can't sign anyone from the buyout market. 22 minutes to go. 21 minutes to go now. Starting to hear some rumblings now. Let's see. If the Mavericks were to be interested in somebody from Atlanta, who would it be? Karis LeVert as a scorer, maybe? Larry Nance as a backup if they were to trade away, Daniel Gafford here at the deadline. Kobe Buffkin. Nobody else really makes sense. Ricochet, maybe you go that route. Hawks and Houston coming to a trade. Let's see. Trading Cody Zeller and Houston's 28 second round pick to the Rockets. There they go. They free up one spot there. Cody Zeller off the board. They need one more to go from Atlanta. Again, you're going to see a lot of these small moves trying to get underneath the tax, clear off roster spots. A lot of these small deals here in the next 20 minutes here. And the trade puts Atlanta below the luxury tax. Wow. How much was Zeller making? $3.5 million, and he signed for 3 years. Wow. Why did the Rockets even do it to bail him out? I would want a little bit more for that. I'm stuck with him for 3 years, unless those years are non-guaranteed. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense from Houston's perspective. Love it for Atlanta. Rafe, you're calling one big whoa trade that somebody gives up too much on a last-minute deal. I'll agree with you on that one. I'm going to say we're going to get that trade here in the next 5 minutes. Usually around the 1:45 mark, we get a decent-sized one. Am I saying we're going to get a trade like Kevin Durant? No. I think we're going to get something in the neighborhood of maybe a Cam Johnson. I think we'll get something in that neighborhood of player at best. More likely, maybe a Chris Paul deal to offload him. Nobody's really talked about that one. And I still think Dallas has more up their sleeve. Lakers, I think, could be in line for a depth move. Portland's done nothing so far. They got 3 centers on their roster. I'm sure they'd love to give Klingon some time at center this year. So trading away one of those centers would be wise. Robert Williams is the easier one to trade, I think, now that he's back and healthy. So it sounds like Dennis Schroeder will end up with the Pistons as part of a massive Jimmy Butler deal. We'll see what that deal actually turns out to be, because I'm still not sure that one's been finalized yet. Still got a lot of moving parts that need to go in there. That's why teams decided to kind of have their teams together and not on the plane. That way they can, not have those awkward moments when hey, you've been traded, but you're stuck on the plane to another city with this club. That was one of the things we covered in our show yesterday. The non-taxpayer mid-level, so they're basically getting a big, essentially, for their postseason run. There was some thought process that they could trade Steven Adams, etc., to get some more help at the backup center spot. Zeller, I guess, is the addition there. Doesn't exactly move the needle, but it does save Atlanta quite a bit. $17 minutes to go until the deadline. You guys tell me, what player are you guys waiting to see? Player or team? Team for me is Dallas. Team for me is going to be the Los Angeles Lakers. Team for me is going to be the New York Knicks. Teams that I think need to make some moves. Another team that needs to sell some of their pieces is the New Orleans Pelicans. Otherwise, the acquisition of Bruce Brown and Olynyk doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me going forward. Update from John Heyman on Steve Cohen and Pete Alonso. Apparently they met in private without the agent, and hammered out a lot of the issues there, so take that for what it's worth. Nikola Vucevic to the Warriors. That's one we've been waiting for. I don't see that one there, but we will see if it gets done. That's what you're waiting for? Okay. That's the one I'm waiting for as well for the Warriors. I think the addition of Jimmy Butler is a good one, but I think they should still get some more scoring in there. Losing a guy like Gary Payton, while it would hurt your versatility, while losing Kevon Looney would certainly help hurt you as far as rebounding. I'd rather have Vucevic anyway. He's a decent rebounder and gives you more offensively. You just have to figure out things on the defensive end of the floor. But when you have Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green as your point of attack defenders, and then you have Steph Curry, Buddy Hield, and Vucevic handling things offensively, you're still in a pretty good spot. Would I say they're as good as the Warriors when they had KD, Clay, Steph, and Draymond at their height of their careers? No, but I am saying they'd be in a pretty good spot to be able to handle things offensively and defensively with that lineup. Rafe, Angels the only Cali team not to throw the bag at players right now? Maybe. I mean, they did spend this offseason already on Kikuchi and a couple of others. But the only player they threw the bag at, as far as I remember, is Kikuchi. Mark Stein just sent out a tweet. Grizzlies asked about Kevin Durant. Schroeder is indeed going from Utah to Detroit. Gives them some good guard play there. Not shooting great this year, but shooting better than he has in the past. That's why he was traded from Brooklyn originally, if you remember earlier this season. This is the, Brooklyn to Golden State to Utah. The original thought process is he was going to Miami, but that they rerouted him to Utah. Utah now sends him to the Detroit Pistons. So it almost could have been 5 teams that he could have been on in one season. That's very interesting. Now, would he have played a game for all those teams? No. But still kind of interesting to think about. Pistons plan to keep Dennis Schroeder. Makes some sense because they need some more players that can actually play for them, as opposed to just buyout type candidates. NHL trade deadline is about a month. We'll have a live for that one as well, so be sure to join us in March for that one. And every night we cover MLB's hot stove season, and throughout the regular season we'll be live around 9 o'clock to bring you the latest from MLB. So be sure to join us there as well. Just a whole lot of nothing today. Nurkic, Mann, Hunter, those are probably your biggest trades of the day. I'm sure I'm missing one, but nothing huge to the level of, Jimmy Butler from last night, B.I. from last night, Luka from Saturday night. Nothing quite on that level, which we kind of expected, but it's still been a fairly active day. I think we've had in the neighborhood of 12 trades today so far, somewhere in there, but almost none of them have been made official yet. But with less than 12 minutes to go, they're going to have to get them all in. That Butler deal is still expanding. All right. Let's go ahead and go over to the posts real quick and see if anybody's come up with anything interesting in the final minutes of the trade deadline. Gary Harris, Schroeder already got traded. Grayson Allen, no thank you. What do you get with it? Where's the slide? Do they not have a slide on this one? Maybe I clicked on the wrong one. Jokic, that ain't happening. I don't like these who say no propositions because they're not going to happen. There's the trade of Zeller. Hawks blow it up? No, they ain't going to blow it up. They got some good young talent on that roster. They ain't going anywhere. Let's see. Grizzlies, again, another trade idea for Cam Johnson. Maybe we will see him traded here. KD is not going to Detroit. Sorry. Alright, let's update X, see if anything is going there. You hope you're jinxing it? I hope so too. I'm hoping for more activity. It's been a very slow day today. I know exactly what we want when we're trying to watch a YouTube channel to discuss the trade deadline is nothing to be happening. So that's pretty much what we have today so far. Vucevic, one of the more interesting names that's left out there. Johnson is another one. Durant is another one. Some of the guys that are on expiring deals. Brown is one from the Pelicans. "10 minutes to go, everybody. 10 minutes. We'll probably be live for a little bit here after the deadline as some of these smaller trades trickle in here. So probably around 2:15 we'll log out. 9 minutes to go. So the way the process works, once you get this close to the deadline, all you have to do is have the trade call already into the office. You have to have agreed to the medicals. You can't say, oh, wait, the medical came back and we don't like it. You have to have already gotten everything done, dotted your I's, crossed your T's as far as all that's concerned. By the time the deadline clock strikes. Now, once that clock happens, you can't call in a second or two after and say, hey, wait, I called. It was only a second or two after. Can I still get in? No, you can't. You have to get everything agreed to, have the trade call placed. They might put you on hold, put you in a queue. You might fax it in. You might put them on FaceTime, whatever they do nowadays to kind of do that process. But as long as you're in the queue, you're okay. Wizards announced they have indeed bought out, or at least waived, Reggie Jackson. No surprise there. Let's see. KJ Martin, Josh Richardson, and a second-round pick from Detroit to Utah to acquire Dennis Schroeder. Interesting that they're giving up another piece here. Just the money of basketball making it back and forth here. Dennis Schroeder was going to have significant interest in the buyout market. Will not be available after the trade deadline. Pardon me. Rafe, imagining having one of the biggest deals in history in place and you call 3 seconds too late? Exactly. I'm sure it's happened before. Eight minutes to go. We're getting some news about every 2 or 3 minutes now, so hopefully we'll get a couple more moves between now and the deadline. And then who knows if there's any queue or anybody in the queue when the deadline happens. Chester, we'll see if Nikola gets moved. Durant to the Rockets. I think if that was going to happen, we have already heard of it by now. Randall. You're going to send a center to the Timberwolves. Not going to happen. To the Magic. Not going to happen. Yeah, a lot of these trade ideas are just not good ideas. Bob Myers accidentally leaked that the Grizzlies were trying to get Kevin Durant on live TV. Was he not supposed to say that? Or did he steal the thunder from Windhorst? Huh. Rafe, I feel like I've heard NFL gives like an extra minute than the deadline, but I don't know how legit that is. I have not heard that. I've heard that more often than not, if you're in the queue, if you drop out of the queue, say your phone disconnects or whatever the reason, then you are not, you can't be back in the queue. So I've actually heard the opposite of that, where trade calls, you drop the call or whatever, and you don't get back in. Now, there's other ways of doing it. You get yourself in the queue, then they call you. I've seen those systems in place before. And then, of course, if you drop the call, they still leave you in place because you're still in the queue. But you have to have everything agreed to is the bigger point. You can't sit there and say, well, it's 3:05. Can we go ahead and get the deal done? It's only 5 minutes after. We're close enough, aren't we? No, you're not. It'd be very interesting if the Grizz did get Kevin Durant, though. Smart would have to be the piece going out. The center, maybe Brendan Clark, I guess, would be the quote-unquote center fill-in for them. Maybe Zach Edey going out. Oh, there's the Marcus Smart trade with the Grizzlies. Let's see. The Grizzlies are trading Marcus Smart and a first-round pick to the Wizards as part of a multi-team trade that sends 2 second-round picks to Memphis. Memphis retains some flexibility. What? This has got to be a bigger trade here. There's got to be more. Oh, wait. Are the Grizzlies about to get Kevin Durant? The thought that just occurred to my mind is, say Middleton is the piece going from the Wizards to the Suns because they preferred him over Marcus Smart. They send Smart and a pick for Middleton to the Wizards, and KD goes to Memphis. Letting my mind get away from me, but that's kind of what just popped in my head. Let's see what the actual trade is, though. Miami's still trying for one more thing with 4 minutes left. Okay. Trade. Clippers are trading Kevin Porter Jr. to the Milwaukee Bucks. Come on, update faster. There it is for Marjon Beauchamp. Gives them some depth there with Milwaukee. Don't really think that's a consequential trade for the Clippers, though. Let's see what this trade is, though. I want to see what the return is for Marcus Smart. Because you can't just send him to Washington and not have other pieces in it. Chris Haynes detailing the same deal. Come on, what's the return here? Do we get a Kevin Durant deal? I didn't think we would get one. I certainly didn't think it would be the Grizzlies that are the team. But if they are, what is this going to mean for Devin Booker in the offseason? I don't think anybody's really thought of that yet. Unless it's just a cap-clearing move. But I'd imagine attaching a first to Marcus Smart, you're getting something. Sacramento Kings are getting Jake LaRavia from Memphis. So maybe it's the Kings that are included in this one, not Kevin Durant. Okay. That makes a little bit more sense. Maybe you're getting a piece like a DeMar DeRozan. Maybe you're getting a piece like a Malik Monk. Maybe you're getting a piece like a Zach LaVine. All those would make a little bit of sense. What would be the piece going from Washington, though, that would make this work? Deadline is just a few seconds away. We are less than a minute. 159. Any second now. But remember, those deals, as long as they're in the queue, will still go through. And 2 o'clock, that's the deadline, everybody. That's a wrap. Got to have that call in. The deadline is passed. Now it's time to figure out what's still in the queue and what's coming here from Memphis, Washington, and Sacramento. Hands up, pencils down. Or utensils down anyway. I remember it always as pencils down and then hands up because it's kind of hard to put your hands up and then drop the pencil. Let's see if the Heat got their transaction done. We'll see if the Mavs did anything else. Lakers, Knicks. Bucks did their usual tinkering at the back end of their roster. Would have loved a KD trade, to be honest. To the Mavericks, I would not have loved that. A KD trade to spice this deadline up would have been nice. And would certainly have been interesting from Devin Booker, what that would have done for him going forward. More details. Mark Stein has them. Let's see here. The Kings are sending a second rounder to Memphis, plus Colby Jones and Alex Len to Washington. Grizzlies are getting Jake LaRavia as part of the Marcus Smart trade. Small trade here. Pacers are trading James Wiseman and Cash to the Raptors. Interesting. I don't understand the trade here for the Memphis Grizzlies, though. You're giving up a first, Jake LaRavia, and Marcus Smart. What's the reason for the trade? There's got to be more coming. You're telling me you made the trade for Alex Len and Colby Jones in a second round pick, and you gave up Smart, a first rounder, and LaRavia? Wow. As part of the trades, Sacramento is sending Jones, Len, and a second to Memphis for LaRavia. I still don't get it. Kevin Durant has not been traded anyway, according to a leak source. That coming from Mark Stein. So he stays in Phoenix. I still don't get this trade at all for the Memphis Grizzlies. You're giving up a first and Marcus Smart to get a second-round pick, Alex Len and Kobe Jones, and you're also giving up Jake LaRavia. There's got to be another piece going back to Memphis in this deal. Suns don't trade Kevin Durant. Will do a full evaluation if the team doesn't turn around this season. Golden State are done with trade, sources say. Look for them to be aggressive in the buyout market so they do not get Nikola Vucevic done. Dang. I was hoping for that one. Why didn't the Warriors get Nikola V? Maybe they just rather have the versatility of having the different pieces that I mentioned there. The versatility of having a defensive guard in Gary Payton, having the rebounding of a Kevon Looney. Maybe they just like to keep a little bit more of their defensive identity with some of those players there. LeBron traded for a Subway sandwich and a life supply of Cool Ranch Doritos to the Wizards. No, that did not happen. All right. 2:04, so we'll be live for another 10 minutes or so. Zach Lowe, painful end to what passes for the Marcus Smart era in Memphis. Traded 2 firsts to get him, 1 to get off of him. Also, yeah, the Grizzlies have too many rotation guys already, but LaRavia was solid this season. Makes a lot of gritty winning plays. Should make the Kings rotation. Still. Like, what? I don't get that trade at all. Why trade a first-round pick at all with Marcus Smart? Just wait until the offseason if you're worried about nobody giving you value for him, and just use him as an expiring deal. Who cares what the player is? Just use it as an expiring contract at that point. Maybe they're just looking to save money, I suppose, here, but, I mean, it is Memphis. They don't have a whole lot of money to work with, but, I mean, poor asset management to the nth degree here. Shams again saying that they are not moving on from KD. Still have heard nothing that from the Mavericks as far as whether they are all clear or not. Nothing from the Knicks yet. Warriors are done. Suns are done. Still waiting to see if this is all of the details from the Memphis trade as well. I imagine we'll get another deal here in the next 10 minutes. Rafe, Mavs didn't do anything so far. I haven't seen a report, though, that's given them the all clear. I always wait for the white smoke. Interesting thing there for the Wizards now. They have 2 big pieces that would be interesting on other clubs. Meaning, maybe they could be traded at some point in the offseason, or they get bought out, or some type of an agreement could come in place. But the Wizards are just trying to do a little bit better and avoid one of the worst records, if not the worst record in NBA history. Maybe that's part of the process of bringing in the bad contracts of Middleton and of Marcus Smart. But I would have thought they would have tried to find a fit for Middleton. If they couldn't find a fit, maybe they tried to do the bad trade or bad contract for bad contract swap. I thought maybe Middleton could be headed back the other way with that Grizzlies trade, but does not look like that is happening. So curious there in Washington what they are doing. No news yet, but Brogdon to Memphis would be the contract that fills in all of this. Maybe Brogdon is a part of the trade. I always liked Malcolm Brogdon, just wish he didn't have the injury issues. Mark Stein, Warriors made another run at Nikola Vucevic on deadline day. Bobby Marks, by trading Marcus Smart and his $21.6 million salary next season, the Memphis Grizzlies have the flexibility to renegotiate the contract of Jaren Jackson Jr., who enters the offseason on an expiring $23.4 million salary. He is a good asset for them. They need to get him signed long term. At least we didn't sell our kidneys for KD. No kidding. But talks fizzled as teams could not agree on a trade construction. Okay. So Brogdon may be a buyout possibility there in Memphis if they don't keep him. I would love him on the Mavericks if they're able to do that, but I don't think they'll be able to do the buyout thing either because they're above the tax right now. Unless there's some trade that they're able to offload Dwight Powell's salary. Hawks, Grizzlies, and Cavs made trades. Only teams to sit out this trade season: the Nuggets, the Timberwolves, the Magic, and the Trailblazers. Wow. Trailblazers had some pieces they could have dealt. Magic certainly did. I think they needed shooting, but they didn't go for it. Timberwolves could have traded some of their salary and saved themselves some money. Nuggets needed some depth, and they didn't do it. So, missed opportunities for all four teams. Still waiting for the all clear from a few others. What's not good? Didn't post it. Okay. The Kings are in a unique situation with Jake LaRavia because Memphis declined his fourth-year team option. The maximum Sacramento can sign him to is $5.1 million. True. It's 2:10. We'll be live for another 5 minutes or so just to see if any other trades are in the queue. Seen a few more details coming out. Still waiting to hear if officially Malcolm Brogdon is a part of that Marcus Smart deal. Still waiting from the Lakers for an all clear, from the Mavs for an all clear, and the Knicks. Golden State looks like they didn't do anything. Clippers look like they are done. Celtics I don't expect anything from. It looks like they're done as well. Houston did a bunch of things today, small things today, but it sounds like they are done as well. It's Spencer time, Spencer Dinwiddie. Yeah, if they're not going to add a ball handler, they're going to have to put a lot of trust in Spencer Dinwiddie. How do you feel about that, Mavs fans? I like Spencer Dinwiddie, but I liked him as a third guard, not as our number 2. I give this roster a bit of an incomplete at the guard spot now without Luka. It's still a good roster. They're more than complete up front. Klay Thompson I don't think fits well on this roster, but it doesn't sound like they're going to do anything. Trae Young's future with the Atlanta Hawks becoming murky. You mean once again? That was part of the issue they had a couple of years ago with DeJounte Murray. They chose to go with Trae Young. They brought in Dyson Daniels. Now they're having the same issue with Dyson Daniels and Trae Young. Does he survive another challenge to his supremacy on that team? We sold our soul to get better, then didn't even finish out the roster. What a joke. Soulfish actually sounds good. I'm starving right now. Mm-mm-mm. I don't know, man. As far as trade grades this offseason, the Lakers get an A plus plus, like a billion pluses at the end. The other teams this deadline are a lot of question marks for me. There's not a clear winner that comes to mind immediately for me. Toronto was a little bit of a head scratching thing. Houston did a nice job acquiring picks. Um, New Orleans did okay, kind of what we expected them to do. I thought they would go a little further, but they didn't. The Hawks did fairly well getting what they got for DeAndre Hunter, just getting off of that deal, but ultimately traded away the draft assets that they used or that they acquired in that deal as well, just to offload some other contracts on their books. Don't really like that aspect of it. I would have just rather kept their roster the way it was, or made a different trade that would have at least kept me some draft assets in what's been a difficult year there in Atlanta. Philadelphia is a little bit of a head scratcher from the standpoint that they make the acquisition of Grimes, trade away Martin, they get underneath the tax, yay, but you have Embiid, you have Maxey, you have George. Where's the acquisition to make this team a little bit better? They have a couple of veterans at the back end of that roster that they could either buy out or trade here at the deadline. They chose not to do either one. Just kind of questionable moves across the board here. But the clear winner this trade deadline, beginning, middle, and end, is the Los Angeles Lakers. Wizards get an F for not dumping more old, expensive contracts. I would say they get an F, or I'd say they get a C for not getting more to take on the contract of Middleton. Getting off of Kuzma's deal is not too bad. They're not going to get off of Jordan Poole. I think the Nets get an F for not doing anything here besides what they had already done. I thought this is the perfect time to trade Cam Johnson. If nobody else was going to make a move today, get a couple of a couple of first round picks out of it. Robert, see if there's interesting buyouts. There will be a few. There always is, but. Trade deadline day a little bit underwhelming. Phoenix did a nice job getting out from underneath Nurkic's deal, but I thought they were built for better trades. They don't get out of Beal's deal because, of course, he has the no trade. But if they trade away Durant, then at least revisit the idea of trading away Booker. Then maybe he decides maybe I don't really want to be here and decides to waive that no trade clause at that point. So I thought this was an opportunity for the Suns to pick a direction as a franchise, and I think they just kind of stuck with what they've got. Interesting move here. The Oklahoma City Thunder will waive Daniel Tice. He'll be a buyout candidate as well. But as far as Tice goes, I thought he'd have been a good size piece for them, just kind of with their injury issues that they've had. But ultimately, looks like they'd rather have the roster spot. Doesn't look like anything else is coming through. It is 2:15, and nothing else is coming through. All right, just to kind of recap the deadline season. Biggest trade, obviously, is the Luka for AD trade. Second would be the Jimmy Butler trade. We still don't know every single detail of that one. We'll see what the final tally is as far as the teams involved. That was the second biggest deal. We saw the BI trade as well. That was a fairly big one. Nurkic goes to the Hornets. Mark Williams goes to the Lakers. Great deal for them as well. Saw a bunch of other smaller deals. A lot of contracts being moved as far as trying to save money, dip underneath the tax, that kind of thing. And what is a wide open year in the West once again? Nobody really took a step forward other than the Lakers. Mavericks took a risk anyway, trading Luka, but I would say their future is far brighter now there in LA rather than in Dallas. So the only team to me that is an absolute win this offseason is the Los Angeles Lakers. The rest of the teams, I have mixed feelings about their trade deadline. So we'll see. I've got to wait 2 more weeks for Bregman. I don't think so. I think the news that we got on Bregman today should inspire you to think that it's going to happen sooner rather than later. You'll have to watch our show this evening, our MLB Hot Stove Daily show tonight, to catch up on all the rumors in MLB. We'll refresh our page one more time just to see if there's anything else. Doesn't look like it. Alrighty, appreciate you guys joining us today. We cover all of the trade deadlines for all 4 of the major sports anyway: football, basketball, baseball, and hockey. We cover the offseason pretty much every single day with Major League Baseball, so be sure to join us again tonight for that live, updating guys on Bregman, some of the trade possibilities that are out there for that one. But appreciate you guys enjoying our coverage here at the Upside for the NBA trade deadline. But, the craziness happened in the days building up to it, as it usually does. Today was a little bit more about cap clearing, about getting underneath tax, about, moving around picks from one year to another. That's really what the deadline day was for today. Not even specialists really got moved. It was more about contracts more than anything else. Let's see, Beauchamp had his fourth-year option declined. Yes, we know that one. Alrighty, so that kind of updates everything as far as what we got. Check Hoops Rumors one more time before we head out. Wiseman deal is the one they're talking about there. Check our notification. Samsung now has Victory Plus. Awesome news for Rangers fans and Stars fans. I wonder if the Mavs go to Victory Plus next year as well. Alright. One last check just to see if anything else before we log out for the day. And nothing there. Alright. Thank you guys for joining us today. We'll be live again later tonight around 9 o'clock. Let my voice rest up, have some food because I'm starving. And hopefully we'll get some information as far as some of the buyout candidates that are out there. We can update those of you who are interested in that information. But Bregman will be one of the things we talk about tonight. Arenado as well. Updates on him and the Red Sox. And some other trade possibilities that are percolating in Major League Baseball as well. Thank you guys for joining us today. And we'll see you this evening for our MLB Hot Stove Daily.